Chapter 114. Fan Jin carefully looked at his mission scroll and asked, Sir Ouyang, can we set off now? Yes, we can set off now. I'll wait for you at the Ouyang Manor. Ouyang Ming nodded. Hearing this, someone immediately rushed out of the door because this time, it was not about who completed the mission, but who completed the mission first. As for Yi Xian, he naturally left as well. In the past few days, he had finished his preparations and could set off at any time. The six of them quickly left the Ouyang Manor and then left separately, including Yi Xian. They all hid the parchment scroll very well. The others did not know what their mission was, nor did they know who had taken the same mission as them. Yi Xian glanced at the others and then quickly left South Forest City. He had heard that some clans raised demonic beasts specifically for traveling, so he couldn't fall behind. Now, he was a martial artist in the early 10th level of the martial path. Coupled with the 100 Beasts bloodline and the Wind-Seeking Leopard bloodline, he was very confident that he could be the first to arrive at the mission location. After leaving South Forest City, he quickly rushed toward the 18 mountain ranges of Lianyun. With his speed, it was estimated that it would only take him 7 days to go back and forth, while the others would take half a month. In other words, he would arrive at the mission location a few days earlier than his opponents. This was an advantage. Now his speed was faster than when he came to South Forest City. It only took him 3 days to run to the depths of the 18 mountain ranges of Lianyun, which was the 18th mountain range. He stopped and began to look for the location where the token was buried according to the map on the parchment. He arrived at the 18 mountain ranges of Lianyun earlier than his opponents, so he naturally had to find the token first and then hunt the mighty King Kong. Because there was only one token, there were many mighty King Kong. However, when he arrived at the mountain where the token was buried, he heard the roar on the mountain and his expression froze. It turns out that the place where the token is buried is the mighty King Kong's nest. Yi Xian directly took out the golden eagle bow from the devouring space and went up the mountain with a solemn expression. According to the instructions on the parchment scroll, he learned that the token was buried under a locust tree at the top of the mountain. Therefore, he had to climb to the top of the mountain. The other requirement of the mission was to obtain the white hair on the forehead of the mighty King Kong. This kind of monster called the mighty King Kong was naturally a 10th rank monster. Moreover, it had extraordinary strength and could smash a person into meat paste with one punch. Its strength was comparable to a martial artist in the middle of the 10th rank. However, this was a piece of cake for Yi Xian. So what if he had extraordinary strength? Could he keep up with Yi Xian's speed? If they couldn't keep up, then they could only be beaten. Swish! With the golden eagle bow in hand, Yi Xian climbed the mountain at lightning speed. Roar! Roars kept coming from the mountain forest. This was the daily activity of the mighty King Kong. They would roar when they had nothing to do. However, the roars were usually directed at King Kong who did not have a mate. It had already been 10 minutes since Yi Xian stepped into the lair of the mighty King Kong. This mountain was quite big, and there were quite a few poisonous creatures, so Yi Xian was quite careful. However, at this moment, roar! Suddenly, a deafening roar fell into Yi Xian's ears, causing his expression to freeze. This roar seems to be nearby. Since I've encountered it, then I'll see what kind of ability this mighty King Kong has. At this moment, Yi Xian looked for the source of the sound. Soon, he saw a white gorilla standing at the entrance of a cave, roaring loudly and hammering its chest. After seeing it, Yi Xian couldn't help but be shocked because this gorilla was a little too big. Its 2 arms were estimated to be 2 meters long. Whatever, go for me. Yi Xian directly pulled the golden eagle bow in his hand. After aiming, he suddenly released it. Swish! An ear-piercing sound broke through the air. The spiritual force turned into chi and swept in front of the mighty King Kong in an instant. Boom! The spiritual force arrow exploded, and smoke and dust filled the air. The mighty King Kong let out a scream. However, what surprised Yi Xian was that this mighty King Kong was actually unscathed and was rushing towards him. What a strong defense! The exploding star arrow can't even break through its fur. Yi Xian secretly muttered in his heart. He had already learned the 2nd level of the exploding star arrow, which was considered an 8th grade martial arts technique. Coupled with the golden eagle bow, the power was definitely enough to kill a defenseless 10th level martial artist. However, such an attack couldn't break through the mighty King Kong's defense. Damn it, I'll let you have a taste of the 3rd level of the exploding star arrow. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He directly spent nearly 100 devouring points to exchange for the third level of the exploding star arrow. Then, he pulled the bow again, aimed at the mighty King Kong that was rushing towards him, and shot another arrow. Swish! The sound and speed of this arrow was louder and faster than before. Monsters were monsters after all. Their intelligence was not high. Moreover, violent monsters like the mighty King Kong rarely dodged. This mighty King Kong didn't dodge and directly punched the spiritual force arrow. Boom! The exploding star arrow and the mighty King Kong's fist collided, immediately stirring up 1,000 layers of air waves. The space in this area seemed to be distorted, and a faint burnt smell spread out. Hee hee, I'll let you scream. Are you happy being blown up by the exploding star arrow? Yi Xian suddenly grinned. The third level of the exploding star arrow just now was powerful enough to break through the mighty King Kong's defense. Not only that, a large chunk of the mighty King Kong's fur was blown off, and blood flowed out of the wound. This mighty King Kong's blood was actually green. Roar! This mighty King Kong was extremely angry. It was lonely and cold, so it wanted to use its roar to attract a female King Kong. But who knew that it wasn't a female King Kong, but a human? Furthermore, this human had injured her. Unforgivable. However, anger was useless. It was still roaring when Yi Xian shot another exploding star arrow. Boom! The mighty King Kong's chest was hit, and the powerful impact directly forced it to fall back. While you're sick, I'll take your life. Have a taste of my new skill. Yi Xian raised his hand and pulled the golden eagle bow. This time, he took much longer to condense spiritual force than before. Could it be that he wanted to condense full spiritual force and then severely injure this mighty King Kong? Every martial art was different. The chaotic star arrow and the exploding star arrow required different spiritual force to condense. The more spiritual force condensed, the stronger the power. However, this time, the spiritual force condensed by Yi Xian had already exceeded the range of the third level of the exploding star arrow. Chaotic star arrow. Swish! As Yi Xian's fingers loosened, the condensed spiritual force instantly turned into an arrow and shot out. However, after this arrow was shot out, it was divided into 9 exploding star arrows. Chapter 115. Yi Xian had this idea before, but he could not combine the exploding star arrow with the chaotic star arrow even though he tried many times. However, he later found that it was unnecessary because it could be exchanged in the devouring system. The chaotic star arrow cost Yi Xian 100 devouring points. It was very expensive. However, it was definitely worth it. Boom! 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 A series of explosions sounded. The mighty gorilla that just got up suddenly fell down again. 9 exploding star arrows had already blown it up beyond recognition. Its entire upper body was badly mutilated. The power is enough, but the consumption is too much. The spiritual power consumed in one shot is more than 10 shots of exploding star arrow and 10 shots of chaotic star arrow. Yi Xian sighed helplessly and then walked over. At this time, there was a high-grade mortal sword in his hand. Roar! The mighty gorilla was severely injured and could only let out a low roar. Let's fight for survival of the fittest. Yi Xian muttered as he stabbed his sword into the wound on the chest of the great strength King Kong, piercing through its heart. Dead. The mighty gorilla that was comparable to the middle stage of martial path was easily killed by Yi Xian. If there were others here at this time, they would definitely be shocked. Then, Yi Xian plucked a special hair from the mighty gorilla's forehead and swallowed the corpse. Ding! The host has swallowed a demonic beast corpse. You have gained 3 devouring points. Ding! The 100 beast essence blood slot has increased by 1 point. Damn, this corpse is worth 3 million taels of silver. If I kill a few more, won't I be able to level up? Yi Xian was shocked. He had swallowed some 10th-ranked demonic beasts before, but their strength was relatively weak, at most 1 or 2 million taels of silver. However, this mighty gorilla was worth 3 million taels of silver. Haha, awesome, I found a place to level up. Yi Xian was very happy. Now that he was at the early stage of martial path, he had reached the shackles. As long as he killed 20 or 30 more demonic beasts, he might be able to break through to the middle stage of martial path. However, at this moment, he directly swallowed the last lower-grade crystal. Ding! Host has broken through to the mid-stage of the 10th rank. In order to kill the mighty gorilla faster, Yi Xian chose to level up without hesitation. At this moment, he was already at the same level as the son of the Southern Forest Commandery Prince. He was 16 years old, while Deng Yang was 22 years old. There was a 6-year gap between them, but they were on the same level. In front of Yi Xian, Deng Yang wasn't even a fart. However, Yi Xian did not become complacent because he was going to participate in the Imperial Capital Tournament. The people recommended by the 16 patrol envoys of the Profound Sun Empire were more or less the same. The ones that Yi Xian was wary of were the young talents living in the imperial capital. Alright, now that we know the strength of the mighty Vajra, the next step is simple. Let's find that token first. Yi Xian continued to climb the mountain. After breaking through to the mid-10th stage of the martial path, his spiritual energy had increased by a level, so the power and speed of the chaotic arrows were much stronger than before. After the breakthrough, he encountered the second mighty gorilla, but this time, he only used the chaotic arrows to kill the mighty gorilla. He did not even need to use the last hit. Ding! Host has swallowed a monster corpse and gained 3 devouring points. Ding! Host has swallowed a monster corpse and gained 3 devouring points. Ding! Host has swallowed a monster corpse and gained 3 devouring points. The strength of adult mighty gorillas was about the same, so their corpses were uniformly worth 3 devouring points. Before Yi Xian reached the top of the mountain, he had already killed more than 10 mighty gorillas and earned 50 devouring points. He also obtained 10 unique white hairs on the forehead of the mighty gorilla. In order to increase his efficiency, he spent dozens of devouring points to exchange for a bottle of elixir that could quickly restore spiritual energy. He originally had the 100 Flowers bloodline, so his physical strength and spiritual energy recovery speed increased. With this bottle of elixir, he could kill to his heart's content. After killing more than 30 mighty gorillas, he finally reached the top of the mountain. Is it that locust tree? The top of the mountain was a little desolate, so Yi Xian saw the tallest and biggest locust tree at a glance. He immediately ran over. There was a big rock under the locust tree. According to the instructions on the parchment, the iron box with the token was buried under the big rock. Yi Xian ran over and kicked the rock away. Then he dug with his bare hands. Sure enough, there was an iron box buried under the rock. Yi Xian opened it directly, and there was a bronze token lying quietly inside. Ouyang! After seeing the token, Yi Xian was shocked, but he quickly calmed down because this token was not the token of the Imperial Inspector, but the token of the Ouyang Manor. Lord Ouyang really values me, and he actually gave me the token of the Imperial Inspector. If I had taken the token of the Imperial Inspector and committed outrages, then he would have been the one to suffer. Unknowingly, Ouyang Ming's position in Yi Xian's heart rose a little. Since he had obtained the token, Yi Xian did not stay and immediately left. There are a total of 2 targets on the parchment, and a total of 2 tokens. The mountain under my feet is closer, so if my opponent wants to defeat me, he will have to go to the other location to get the token. It seems that I have more than enough time. Yi Xian thought as he went down the mountain. He had estimated that he was 3 days ahead on the way here, and 3 days ahead on the way back. Moreover, he had already obtained the token at the first target. If his opponent wanted to complete the mission, they would have to go deeper into the 18th mountain range, which would take 1 or 2 days, unless they snatched the token from him. Therefore, he had about a week's time to kill monsters and level up. Immediately, he began a long slaughter. Now that he had the violent arrow that could kill a 10th rank mighty gorilla, every time he used it, he could take the life of a mighty gorilla. A mighty gorilla gave him 3 devouring points, and there were at least 1,000 mighty gorillas on this mountain. Therefore, Yi Xian killed to his heart's content. However, he suddenly remembered that he could obtain more time. Why am I so stupid? If I go to the second location and take the other token, then my opponent won't be able to complete the mission unless he takes the token from me. At that moment, Yi Xian quickly went down the mountain and ran toward the other location. After spending a day, he directly arrived at the second location. If it was someone else, it would probably take 2 or 3 days. Chapter 116. If it was an ordinary warrior, it would not be a problem to climb a cliff, but there were many poisonous creatures on the cliff, such as poisonous spiders, and their levels were not low, at least 7th rank monster beasts. It would take a lot of effort to climb up. I am immune to poison, and this cliff is only a few dozen meters. It should not be a problem for me to climb up. Yi Xian immediately made a decision in his heart. For ordinary people, this cliff was a nightmare, but for Yi Xian, This cliff was not difficult at all. In just 10 minutes, Yi Xian climbed to the top of the cliff, and sure enough, there was an iron box. Yi Xian walked over, opened the iron box, took the other token, and then climbed down. Now, the 2 tokens of this mission are with me. As long as I return to South Forest City within the stipulated time, it will be fine. Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Then the next step was his upgrade plan. After another day, he rushed back to the Great Power King Kong's nest, and then began to kill. 1 Great Power King Kong gave 3 devouring points, 10 Great Power King Kong gave 30 points, and 100 of them gave 300 points. If he slaughtered this mountain, he was afraid that he would get 1,000 devouring points. However, on the 3rd day of Yi Xian's return, 2 people suddenly entered the mountain. Ah Jean, there are many Great Power King Kong on this mountain. Even I have to be careful. You must follow me closely later. A middle-aged man said to a young man. Father, don't worry. I have broken through to the 10th level of the martial path. It is not a problem to face a Great Power King Kong. The young man said. This young man was actually Fan Jin of the Fan family, Yi Xian's opponent this time. And this middle-aged man was Fan Jin's father, Fan Yuan of the Fan family in South Forest City. Humph, don't bite off more than you can chew. Follow me closely. Fan Yuan snorted, holding the sword in his hand, began to carefully climb the mountain. If Yi Xian was here at this time, he would be very surprised. But he was not surprised by Fan Jin, but Fan Yuan. To be precise, it was the weapon in Fan Yuan's hand. This was because the weapon in Fan Yuan's hand was bought by him at a high price. It was said that a mysterious person sold it to the auction house. In order for Fan Jin to participate in the Imperial Capital Tournament, Fan Yuan had specially purchased a spirit weapon for him. After helping Fan Jin complete the mission, he would give this spirit weapon to Fan Jin. This way, Fan Jin's strength would skyrocket. The 2 of them began to climb the mountain. Their speed was extremely slow because Fan Yuan was only at the middle of the 10th stage of the martial Dao. Although he held a spirit artifact sword in his hand, if he encountered several Vajra at the same time, he would still be in danger. However, after walking for nearly an hour, they did not find a single mighty Vajra, which made them feel puzzled. Father, are you sure you were here before? Fan Jin asked in surprise. At the same time, he took out the parchment and looked at it. Yes, the token was at the top of this mountain. Nonsense, last year, I came here with my family's hunting team to kill a few mighty Vajras. At that time, I even brought back the mighty Vajras to nourish your body. Have you forgotten? Fan Yuan rolled his eyes. In fact, he was not too sure in his heart. This was because when he came here, he had encountered 3 mighty Vajras at the same time. The entire hunting team had almost been wiped out. But, we've been walking for more than an hour, and we haven't seen a single mighty Vajra. We haven't even heard a single roar. What's going on? Fan Jin asked in confusion. Maybe those mighty Vajras ran to the back of the mountain. Fan Yuan could not figure it out either. They walked for a while. Roar. Finally, an earth-shattering roar rang out, and the expressions of the 2 changed. Haha, it is indeed the roar of the mighty Vajra. Let's go. Father will bring you to get the first strand of white hair, and cut off his to nourish your body. Fan Yuan laughed a few times and couldn't help but quicken his pace. However, after walking for a while, they heard another sound. Boom! 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 A series of 9 loud sounds rang out. Fan Yuan and Fan Yuan stopped in their tracks and looked at each other. What is this sound? Could it be that someone is fighting with the mighty Vajra? Fan Jin asked in surprise. It should be. Let's go and take a look. Fan Yuan's eyes flashed. Those who could enter this mountain were at least in the 10th level of the martial Dao. He was in the middle of the 10th level of the martial Dao, and he had a spirit weapon in his hand. Even if he faced the peak of the 10th level of the martial Dao, he was not afraid. He had done many things like killing people and robbing them of their treasures, and every time the harvest was very good. Roar! At this time the sound of the mighty Vajra came again. Over here! Fan Yuan heard it and immediately used his movement technique to rush over. Fan Jin also hurriedly followed. However, when they came nearby, they were shocked to find that there was no mighty Vajra, only a person with his back facing them. The smell of blood. There are bloodstains on the ground. There was a battle here. Fan Yuan frowned. For some reason, This scene made his heart palpitate. Why does this person's back look a little familiar? Fan Jin looked at the person with his back facing him and wondered in his heart. Right at this moment, the person whose back was facing him suddenly turned around. When Fan Jin saw the person's face clearly, his expression changed and he exclaimed, Yi Xian. He did not expect to meet Yi Xian here. In that case, Yi Xian was the other person on this mission? However, what he did not understand was why Yi Xian was in front of him. Yi Xian, why are you here? Fan Jin could not help but ask. Oh, it's Brother Fan. Have you forgotten? There are 6 of us and only 3 missions. I'm here, so naturally I'm doing the mission. Yi Xian turned around and looked at Fan Jin and Fan Yuan. At the same time he thought to himself, that was close. Fortunately, the corpse was collected early, or else it would have been discovered. I know. In that case you are my opponent? When did you arrive? Fan Jin asked doubtfully. Yi Xian grinned and replied, I arrived very early. Why? Impossible. I'm riding an 8th order demonic beast, the Windwalker foal. How could you be in front of me? Fan Jin said in disbelief. Oh, sorry. I'm riding a 9th order demonic beast, the Gale Eagle, Yi Xian said casually. What? Fan Jin and Fan Yuan were shocked. The 8th order demonic beast, the Windwalker foal, was caught with great difficulty by the Fan family. However, Yi Xian actually had a 9th order demonic beast as a mount, and a flying one at that. How was this possible? Chapter 117. That's right. Yi Xian nodded. You. Fan Jin was a little angry because he had come here with great difficulty, but Yi Xian had beaten him to it. Most importantly, this mission was to see who could finish the mission first and return first. Have you collected the 10 strands of white hair? Fan Jin asked again. Yi Xian had no use for the token alone. He also needed the unique strand of white hair on the forehead of the 10 strength guardian deities. That's right. Yi Xian reached into his chest and pulled out a pile of white hair. Seeing this, Fan Jin's eyes flashed with a hint of murderous intent. Yi Xian had completed the mission, so as long as he returned to Nanlin City, he would have failed. Moreover, Yi Xian had a flying mount that was faster than him, so even if he went to another location to get the second token, he would not be able to save the situation. At this moment, he only had one choice, and that was to kill Yi Xian. Fan Yuan, who was beside Fan Jin, also realized this, but he still had a doubt in his heart, so he asked, Jin, why does the name Yi Xian sound so familiar? Father, he's the one who crippled Fan Yu. Fan Jin replied. After his reminder, Fan Yuan immediately reacted. So it was you who crippled my nephew, but I remember that my second brother has already sent experts to kill you. Kill me? Yi Xian pretended to be surprised. I don't know about that, but I've never met them. Although he had killed those experts from the Fan family, it was better not to spread this matter, unless he was confident that he could destroy the Fan family. Is that so? If that's the case, as long as I kill you, my son will be able to participate in the Imperial Capital Tournament and avenge my nephew. Fan Yuan suddenly tightened his grip on the sword in his hand as he spoke. Is that so, he? Yi Xian smiled indifferently. Suddenly, he found something strange. He thought to himself, hey, isn't that the water-splitting sword that was sold to the auction house before? So that's how it is. It was bought by the Fan family. Just nice, I can take it back. At this time, Fan Jin also shouted, Yi Xian, as long as you hand over the mission and kill that flying mount of yours with your own hands, I will ask my father to spare your life. At most, I will cripple your cultivation. How about it? It wasn't that he was soft-hearted, but because Fan Yu had a grudge with him when he was young, as a fellow clansman, he couldn't do anything to Fan Yu. And when Yi Xian crippled Fan Yu, it could be considered as unintentionally helping him vent his anger. What a joke. I'll give you a chance. If you kill your father, I'll consider sparing your life. Yi Xian had a look of disdain on his face. He and Fan Yuan were dozens of meters apart, so he couldn't feel Fan Yuan's strength, but he understood that there were only 2 true spirit realm experts in South Forest City. One was the Commandery Prince of the South Forest, and the other was the Imperial Inspector, Ouyang Ming. Therefore, it was impossible for Fan Jin's father to be a true spirit realm expert. As long as it wasn't a true spirit realm expert, what did he have to fear? Moreover, he could take revenge for that day. Good, Since you don't know how to appreciate kindness, then don't blame me. Father, I'll go kill him. Fan Jin coldly snorted. So arrogant, you really don't know life from death. Although Fan Yuan was surprised that Yi Xian could be chosen by Ouyang Ming, when Yi Xian crippled Fan Yu, he was only in the early 9th stage of the martial path. Only a few months had passed, so he didn't believe that Yi Xian could cause any big waves. In his estimation, Yi Xian was at most a 9th stage of the martial path. However, he still suddenly called out to Fan Jin and passed the Aqua Splitter Sword to Fan Jin, saying, Jin, this Aqua Splitter Sword will be given to you sooner or later. Today, use this spirit artifact sword to avenge Fan Yu. Fan Jin took the sword. Although he didn't want to avenge Fan Yu, if he didn't kill Yi Xian, he was afraid that he would be eliminated. Therefore, between him and Yi Xian, only one of them could live. Are you sure you want to kill me and not your father? Yi Xian looked at Fan Jin, the corners of his mouth curling up slightly. What big words. Since you really want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Fan Jin coldly shouted. That day, Yi Xian crippled his guard. He wanted to forget about it, but now, he wanted to avenge that guard. Fan Yuan looked at Yi Xian's carefree expression and was puzzled. He immediately reminded him, Jin, don't relax when dealing with an enemy. Yes, father. Fan Jin nodded, then walked toward Yi Xian with the water-splitting sword in hand. Yi Xian looked at him slowly walking toward him with a smile, thinking, I didn't want to bicker with you, but since you really want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Whoosh! A slash pierced through the air. Fan Jin, who was in the early stage of the 10th realm of the martial path, and with the help of a spirit weapon, his attack was very fierce. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Yi Xian. Even a martial artist at the peak of the 9th realm of the martial path could only watch as he was hit by this slash. However, this slash was very slow in front of Yi Xian. Whoosh! Yi Xian shifted his body slightly and dodged this fierce slash. What? Fan Jin was shocked and raised his hand to slash again. This slash accurately hit Yi Xian's body, but surprisingly, it passed through him. An afterimage? This time, Fan Jin was even more shocked. He hurriedly looked and saw Yi Xian's figure at the side. At this time, Yi Xian had a golden longbow in his hand. Suddenly, Yi Xian's right hand loosened, and an arrow of light shot out. This arrow of light split into 9 parts in the air, and each one was like a bolt of lightning that shot into Fan Jin's body in an instant. One of them pierced through Fan Jin's heart, and the other opened a bloody hole in his forehead. Fan Jin was dead. He never thought that he would be killed in an instant. Moreover, he was not killed in the capital city tournament, but by a teenager who was 5 or 6 years younger than him. Fan Jin, who was holding the water splitter sword, had turned into a corpse and was falling backward. At this time, a figure suddenly rushed over and snatched the water splitter sword from his hand. It was Yi Xian. Jin! After recovering from his shock, Fan Yuan shouted angrily. His only son had actually been killed by someone. At this moment, he rushed toward Yi Xian with his bare hands. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. Yi Xian snorted coldly in his heart. Once again, he left behind an afterimage and rushed in front of Fan Yuan. Bang! He slapped Fan Yuan's chest and sent him flying. Then he changed the weapon in his hand. Whoosh! 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 9 rays of light flashed, and Fan Yuan was shot into a sieve and died in an instant. Even if he had a spiritual weapon sword, he was no match for Yi Xian. After all, a spiritual weapon sword could only increase his attack power, but not his speed. Yi Xian's speed was unimaginably fast. Unless a martial artist at the peak of level 10 of the martial path was using a 10th grade martial arts technique, or a spiritual martial arts technique, it could also be a martial artist in the true spirit realm. Chapter 118. After Fan Yuan and Fan Jin died, Yi Xian also searched their bodies for a while, but did not get much good stuff. Then he buried the 2 of them just in case. Now, his mission opponent was dead, so he was not in a hurry. He could wait for more than 20 days to return to South Forest City, as long as it did not exceed a month. Next, he stayed on this mountain and kept hunting the mighty ape warriors. The spiritual power and devouring points in his body were also increasing. More than 20 days later, under the locust tree on the mountain top, a young man was lying on his side, seemingly sleeping. This young man was Yi Xian. In the past 20 days or so, He had run through this mountain several times and killed all the mighty Vajra. He counted them carefully. There were a total of 563 of them. 563 mighty Vajras. This was a very terrifying number. Even a martial artist at the peak of the 10th level of the martial path with a spiritual weapon sword would not be able to do it in 20 days, unless he was in the true spirit realm. At the same time, these more than 500 mighty ape warriors also provided Yi Xian with a lot of devouring points. At this time, his devouring points had broken through the 2,000 mark. Not only that, his realm had also reached the middle of the 10th level of the martial path. He was only one step away from the peak of the 10th level of the martial path. In fact, he could already break through, but in order to preserve his strength, he put some of the mighty ape warriors' corpses in the devouring space, waiting for the time to suddenly devour and then advance. Suddenly, Yi Xian, who was resting under the locust tree, opened his eyes. He yawned comfortably, stretched his waist, and said to himself, "It's dawn, time to return to South Forest City." He tidied up his luggage, stood up, and then rushed all the way to the foot of the mountain. This mountain had been slaughtered by him. Not only the mighty ape warriors, but also many other monsters were killed by him. "I have to hurry again." When Yi Xian came to the foot of the mountain, he shook his head helplessly. Hurrying was the most boring thing. At this time, he suddenly remembered something. "Oh right, my 2,000 devouring points are enough to upgrade the wind-chasing leopard bloodline or 100 flower bloodline to the intermediate bloodline. Let me try." Yi Xian's heart stirred. The host is currently unable to fuse with a mid-level bloodline. If you forcibly fuse with it, it may cause your realm to drop or your body to explode. Do you wish to purchase it? After hearing the system notification, Yi Xian was shocked again. He was already at the mid-stage of the 10th stage of the martial path, but he was still unable to fuse with a middle-grade bloodline. Could it be that he would have to wait until he broke through to the true spirit realm? Not only the wind-seeking leopard bloodline, but also the 100 flowers bloodline, so he could only give up. "Forget it, if I can't exchange, then I'll leave it for now. Let's return to South Forest City first." Yi Xian shook his head and disappeared from his original spot. Several days later, Yi Xian finally returned to South Forest City. Only 27 days had passed since he left South Forest City. He ran all the way to the Ouyang Manor and found Ouyang Ming. "Master Ouyang, I'm back." Yi Xian took out the 10 white hairs of the mighty King Kong and the token. Ouyang Ming was a little surprised and asked, "Why did you come back so late?" "According to my estimation, you could have completed it in half a month." He had seen Yi Xian's speed before, so he made this estimation. "I ran into some trouble, but I also had a fortuitous encounter, so I was a little late." Yi Xian laughed. "Fortunately, Fan Jin, who was on the same mission as you, has not returned yet. Otherwise, you would have been eliminated." "Wait, your realm." Ouyang Ming suddenly stood up and walked to Yi Xian's side and exclaimed, "You broke through again?" "Yes, this kid had a fortuitous encounter and ate a few unknown fruits, so I broke through." Yi Xian casually found another reason. "You're really lucky, kid. But you're really bold to eat something you don't know. Be careful next time. Don't get poisoned." Ouyang Ming rolled his eyes. He did not want Yi Xian to die halfway. "Yes, thank you, Sir Ouyang, for your guidance." Yi Xian replied respectfully and thought to himself, "I'm immune to poison. As long as I'm not poisoned to death immediately, the 100 Flowers bloodline can detoxify the poison. What's there to be afraid of?" "Okay, you've completed the mission and received a slot. Next month, you'll follow me to the Imperial Capital. Before that, I'll personally guide you," Ouyang Ming said. "Yes, Sir Ouyang." Yi Xian suddenly asked, "All right, Sir Ouyang, have you completed the other 2 missions?" "That's right." Deng Yang was the first to complete it, followed by Gu Yi, and finally Shang Yuxiang. However, Gu Yi and Shang Yuxiang were assigned the same task, and you returned within the allotted time, so Shang Yuxiang was eliminated, Ouyang Ming answered. Yi Xian nodded silently. It seemed that the 3 slots had been decided. Deng Yang, the son of the Nanlin County's second-rank prince, Gu Yi, and Yi Xian. Yi Xian immediately left. It's good to be young. The meridians are not fixed, and the potential is not fully tapped. It's very easy to break through. Ouyang Ming sighed. A martial artist's meridians would only be fixed at the age of 25. After that, their cultivation speed would be greatly reduced. From then on, they would have to rely on the accumulation of time. Although Ouyang Ming was in the true spirit realm, he was only in the early stage. He knew his own capabilities, and whether he could break through to the peak of the true spirit realm in his lifetime was still a question. Yi Xian was in the middle stage of the 10th rank at the age of 16. Ouyang Ming estimated that Yi Xian would be able to break through to the true spirit realm in 1 or 2 years. Why would so many people fight over a single genius? To be able to nurture such a powerhouse was a very satisfying thing. Moreover, Ouyang Ming recommended Yi Xian to participate in the Imperial Capital Tournament. If Yi Xian stood out in the tournament and was chosen by the court officials or even the emperor, then his status would also rise. What if Yi Xian became the great general of the state or the imperial preceptor in the future? In the following month, Ouyang Ming personally guided Yi Xian and the other two. Deng Yang's father was the second-rank prince of the Nanlin County, and the second-rank prince of the Nanlin County was originally a true spirit realm powerhouse, so Deng Yang had a sloppy appearance. Ouyang Ming did not care about Deng Yang because Deng Yang was forced to him by the second-rank prince of the Nanlin County. Ouyang Ming once owed the second-rank prince of the Nanlin County a favor, so he accepted Deng Yang. However, Yi Xian and Gu Yi cherished this 1 month very much. One had to know that this was a true spirit realm powerhouse. How many people dreamed of being guided by a true spirit realm powerhouse? Many of Gu Yi's martial arts that he was not very familiar with were suddenly enlightened after Ouyang Ming's explanation. Chapter 119. However, Ouyang Ming did not give them anything substantial. He only gave them guidance. At the same time, during the process of guiding him, Deng Yang also found out about Yi Xian's cultivation level. He immediately looked at Yi Xian with a fearful expression that contained some hatred. The son of the second-rank prince of the South Forest was defeated by someone else. If this news were to spread, it would cause a huge uproar. The second-rank prince of the South Forest gave birth to Deng Yang after breaking through to the true spirit realm. In other words, Deng Yang was born with a stronger physique than others. However, due to his relationship with Ouyang Ming, Deng Yang did not dare to do anything to Yi Xian. He only showed a trace of hostility occasionally. A month's time passed very quickly. In this month, although Yi Xian's cultivation base did not increase, his combat power increased by a lot. Other than guiding Gu Yi, Ouyang Ming spent most of his time on Yi Xian. Yi Xian was Ouyang Ming's trump card. Ouyang Ming calculated the time and called for a demonic beast carriage. He brought Yi Xian and the other two to the Mystic Sun Imperial Capital. This demonic beast was the Iron-Armored Bull, a rank 10 demonic beast. Only Ouyang Ming, who was in the true spirit realm, could tame such a demonic beast. However, even a rank 10 demonic beast would need 10 days to reach the imperial capital. Before leaving, Ouyang Ming gave Yi Xian and the other two some information. This was the information he collected. There were recommendations from other patrol envoys and some disciples in the imperial capital. What? True spirit realm? Yi Xian glanced at it and was completely shocked. There were true spirit realm experts among the participants of the imperial capital competition? And there were quite a few of them. Li Xiaotian, son of the great general of the Mystic Sun Empire, 23 years old, early true spirit realm. Lu Yu, son of the prime minister of the Mystic Sun Empire, 24 years old, early true spirit realm. Jiang Xian, son of the great general of the Mystic Sun Empire, 22 years old, early true spirit realm. After reading this, Yi Xian was completely stunned. These people were all under the age of 25, but they had already broken through to the true spirit realm. But it was not surprising, because those officials were not weak. Among them, the National Protector General was an expert at the peak of the true spirit realm. How could his child's bloodline be weak? I can already break through to the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path. I wonder how many things I need to break through to the true spirit realm. Yi Xian thought to himself. He had calculated that it took him about 15 low-grade crystals to break through from the middle of the 10th realm to the peak of the 10th realm, which was about 1.5 billion. And to break through to the true spirit realm from the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path, one would need at least 2 billion, maybe even 3 billion or even 5 billion. This was equivalent to 10 spirit artifacts. You've probably seen the information. There are quite a few experts participating in this year's Imperial Capital Tournament. I'm afraid you guys won't be able to compete with those true spirit realm geniuses. As long as you enter the top 100, you might be able to catch their attention. In the carriage, Ouyang Ming said to Yi Xian and the others. Lord Ouyang, what's the content of the tournament? Is it just a battle? Gu Yi asked. The content of the tournament is decided by the Emperor. It's different every time, so I'm not very sure. However, there are many opportunities in this Imperial Capital tournament. There were once people who broke through from the early 10th stage of the martial path to the true spirit realm in the Imperial Capital tournament. As Ouyang Ming spoke, his gaze also fell on Yi Xian. Yi Xian's aptitude and luck were both good, so he still had a chance. From the early 10th stage of the martial path all the way to the true spirit realm. Hearing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. It seemed that there were a lot of good things. Lord Ouyang, there are over 1,000 people in this information. All of them are martial artists in the 10th stage of the martial path. If we include those in the 9th stage of the martial path, I'm afraid there are over 10,000 people. Gu Yi asked again. That's right. There are over 10,000 people in every tournament, so what I want to tell you is that the most important thing is to stay alive. Ouyang Ming nodded. The three of them silently agreed. As long as they were alive, anything was possible. However, Yi Xian felt that as long as he didn't meet those geniuses in the true spirit realm, there shouldn't be a problem. He was already fantasizing about standing out in the Imperial Capital tournament, being recognized by the Emperor, and having a meteoric rise. 10 days later, the carriage finally entered the Imperial Capital. This was Yi Xian's first time in the Imperial Capital. Gu Yi was the same, but Deng Yang was not. He looked at Yi Xian and Gu Yi and snorted with a look of disdain. Although the profound Sun Empire was only a low-level empire, the Imperial Capital was not small. In the Imperial Capital, there were big and small influential people living in it. If the ordinary people were included, there were at least 1 million people. A city with 1 million people living in it showed how big the city was. Originally, the Imperial Capital did not allow demonic beasts to enter, but Ouyang Ming was a patrol envoy. His status was equivalent to that of a county king, so he was able to enter the Imperial Capital. He also had a house in the Imperial Capital. This was Yi Xian's temporary residence. The Imperial Capital tournament will be held in 7 days. When the time comes, I will be back and bring you all to participate. After saying this, Ouyang Ming left the Ouyang Manor and went to the Imperial Palace to meet the Emperor. As for Yi Xian and the other two, they also stayed in their own courtyard. The Imperial Capital was not like South Forest City. The Imperial Capital was filled with officials of the Empire, so there were many powerhouses. The number of true spirit realm powerhouses was at least 100. Moreover, the prosperity of the Imperial Capital was incomparable to that of an ordinary city. Therefore, Yi Xian was thinking whether he should use the 2,000 devouring points to obtain a few more bloodlines to increase his strength. Of course, he had another way to go, and that was to upgrade. Even in the Imperial Capital, spirit tools are rare. My 2,000 devouring points can buy 4 spirit swords. After a few times, I don't think I can break through to the true spirit realm. Yi Xian thought in his heart, but in the end, he gave up on the upgrade plan. At this time, there was already something in his devouring space that could help him break through to the peak of martial path rank 10. If these 2,000 devouring points could not help him break through to the true spirit realm, then it would be a big loss. Therefore it was better to be safe and choose the bloodline. Although the 100 Beasts bloodline is powerful, it is still a low-grade bloodline. My 100 Beasts blood essence slot is only slightly more than 700 points. Even if I collect 1,000 points because my realm is not enough, I will not be able to merge them. Moreover, I now have a spirit tool, the water-splitting sword. If I use my fists, the power will be stronger than the sword, but under normal circumstances, the sword is better than the fists. Thinking of this, Yi Xian made a decision. Exchange for the swordsman bloodline. Ding, exchange for the swordsman bloodline successful. Do you want to merge? Yes. Chapter 120. The swordsman bloodline was worth 300 devouring points. It could increase one's understanding and power of sword-type martial arts. Although the swordsman bloodline was only a low-grade bloodline, it could be upgraded to a mid-grade swordsman bloodline, a high-grade sword emperor bloodline, a top-grade sword saint bloodline, and a god-grade sword deity bloodline. Some low-grade bloodlines could only be used once and could not be upgraded. Therefore, Yi Xian would usually choose bloodlines that could be upgraded to avoid wasting them. Successfully fused with the swordsman bloodline. After fusing with the swordsman bloodline, Yi Xian also felt a slight change. He held the water-splitting sword in his hand as if he had become one with the water-splitting sword. Xiao! Yi Xian suddenly raised his hand and slashed out. This was a rank 9 martial art from the Shattering Cloud sect. The power is indeed stronger, at least 20%. Yi Xian nodded with satisfaction. It seemed that the 300 devouring points were well spent. If he could upgrade the swordsman bloodline in the future, his sword-type martial arts would be strengthened accordingly. He might even be able to upgrade a rank 9 martial art to a rank 10 martial art. At this moment, a system notification sounded in Yi Xian's mind. Ding! The host has successfully fused with the swordsman bloodline. The host can now purchase a martial art that comes with it. Azure Lotus Sword Codex. Hearing this, Yi Xian was a little surprised. The items sold in the devouring system were not very specific. For example, the 100-flower bloodline. Before Yi Xian bought the swordsman bloodline, he did not know that there was a martial art that came with it. However, when he saw the price of the Azure Lotus Sword Codex, he was stunned. Azure Lotus Sword Codex, a spiritual level martial art that can be purchased after fusing with the swordsman bloodline. It costs 500 devouring points. Damn, a spiritual level martial art. Yi Xian was shocked. Now that he had broken through to the rank 10 martial path, he could already purchase a spiritual level martial art. However, the spiritual level martial art in the devouring system was quite expensive. It cost more than 1,000 points, so Yi Xian endured it. He did not expect that after fusing with the swordsman bloodline, he would be able to purchase a spiritual level martial art at a discount. Purchase! Without a second thought, Yi Xian chose to buy it. After deducting 500 points from the devouring system, a figure of light appeared in Yi Xian's mind. The glowing figure first practiced the moves in the Azure Lotus Sword Codex and then practiced the martial arts in the Sword Codex. Green Lotus Sword Technique. Myriad Flower Sword. Lotus Armor. Green Lotus Steps. Yi Xian had the bloodline of a swordsman, so he learned it almost immediately. But in the real world, not even a second had passed. Oh my, the spirit-level martial arts are so powerful. This Azure Lotus Sword Codex includes cultivation methods, martial skills, agility martial arts, and rare protective martial arts. Not only has it increased my battle prowess, but it has also increased my survivability. Yi Xian was overjoyed. The Green Lotus Sword Arts was a cultivation technique, but it was different from normal techniques. He needed to follow the moves. While practicing, he would constantly absorb the yuan qi of heaven and earth and convert it into spiritual power. Yi Xian relied on devouring to level up, so the Green Lotus Sword Arts was not very useful for cultivation. But with the 100-flower bloodline, it was very effective for recovering spiritual power. As for the Myriad Flower Sword, it was even more powerful. When the sword stabbed out, it could instantly split into 18 blades to attack the enemy. The second level had 36 blades, and the third level had 72 blades. Yi Xian had the bloodline of a swordsman, so he directly practiced to the second level, which meant that he could stab out 36 blades with one sword. As for the Lotus Armor, it was a protective martial art. It could use spiritual power to form a lotus to block the enemy's attack. As for the Green Lotus Steps, it was a movement martial art. Although it was very fast, the appearance of a lotus with each step made Yi Xian feel that it was a little feminine. If I knew the bloodline of a swordsman was so good, I would have bought it long ago. These 4 martial arts added together would probably cost a few thousand devouring points. Yi Xian felt very helpless, but it did not matter. Didn't he buy it now? After learning about the benefits of the bloodline, Yi Xian bought another bloodline. The Sagittarius Bloodline. This Sagittarius bloodline could not only improve one's eyesight, but also increase the attack power and perception of archery martial arts. It was worth 200 devouring points. Most importantly, it really did come with a set of spiritual level martial arts. However, this set of spiritual level martial arts only cost 200 devouring points, and it only had one move, called Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter was a martial art with strong penetrative power. If it was paired with a spiritual weapon, it could easily hit a target 1,500 meters away. You get what you pay for. 200 devouring points to buy a set of spiritual level martial arts was considered a profit. Now that Yi Xian had both long-range and close combat abilities, he believed that he would definitely shine in the Imperial Capital Tournament and be recognized by the Emperor as a corrupt official. During these 7 days, Yi Xian stayed in the Ouyang Manor obediently. He had just learned the myriad flower sword and had only trained it to the second layer, so he wanted to train it to the third layer. The second layer had 36 rays of light, while the third layer had 72 rays. It was twice as high. Once the third layer of myriad flower sword was used, a martial artist would definitely not be able to defend against it. Even a true spirit realm expert would have to retreat. After 7 days, Ouyang Ming came back as expected. At the same time, Yi Xian was ready to go. After Ouyang Ming came back, he left with Yi Xian and the other two and went straight to the Imperial Palace. Today was the day of the Imperial Capital Tournament. The entire city was in an uproar. It was much livelier than the wedding of the Imperial Princess. The Imperial Capital Tournament was the grandest event in the profound Sun Empire. Among the current officials and generals, there were many who stood out in the Imperial Capital Tournament. Not only that, but many of the Imperial inspectors and dukes were also chosen by the Emperor. Ouyang Ming was the same. Almost everyone came with the idea of being conferred the title of dukes and dukes. Ouyang Ming brought Yi Xian and the other two to the Imperial capital. After verifying their identities, they each received an identity token. However, just as Yi Xian received the identity token, a few figures suddenly walked towards them. Yo, Ouyang Ming, I didn't expect you to bring people to participate in the tournament this time. Aren't you afraid that they will all die? A deep voice was heard. Before Ouyang Ming turned around, he furrowed his eyebrows. How could he not recognize the voice? Yi Xian sized up the newcomer. This was a burly man wearing the Imperial Inspector's uniform like Ouyang Ming. This burly man had a strong back and a bare waist. His arms were probably thicker than Yi Xian's neck. Behind him were 3 young men. However, these 3 people ignored Yi Xian and the other two and only focused on Ouyang Ming. Tianzhen. Ouyang Ming narrowed his eyes. Chapter 121. Last time and the time before that, the 3 people you brought were all killed inside. None of them came out. I didn't expect you to dare to bring people here this time. You're harming them. After Tianzhen approached, he kindly reminded him. At the same time, he quickly sized up Yi Xian and the other two. The Empire's 16 inspectors were all true spirit realm powerhouses, so Tianzhen was also one. With his cultivation, he directly saw through the strength of Yi Xian and the other two. 2 were in the middle stage of the 10th level of martial arts, and 1 was in the early stage of the 10th level of martial arts. I don't need you to talk about what I do. Ouyang Ming did not give the other party any face and snorted coldly. Hee. We have nothing to do with the Imperial Capital competition. However, don't forget that after this year's competition, it'll be the battle between us. If you lose, you'll have to cripple your meridians. Tianzhen looked at Ouyang Ming with interest, and his face was full of mockery. If you lose, then you'll cripple your own meridians. Ouyang Ming said lightly. Lose. Tianzhen suddenly laughed. Last year, I broke through to the middle stage of the true spirit realm, and you're only in the early stage. You want to defeat me? We'll know who's strong and who's weak after we fight. Ouyang Ming was too lazy to argue. If it was before, he would definitely lose. But now, he bought a few spiritual swords from Yi Xian, and his strength skyrocketed. Even if he was in the early stage of the true spirit realm, he might have a chance of winning against Tianzhen, who was in the middle stage of the true spirit realm. A dead duck is still stubborn. How about this? I'll give you a chance. As long as you take off your inspector's clothes on the spot and run around the Imperial City shirtless, I'll forget about this bet. How about it? Tianzhen suddenly said. What? As soon as these words came out, everyone present was stunned. This was too ruthless. In any case, Ouyang Ming was a patrol envoy. How was it possible for him to run around the Imperial City topless? Yi Xian could tell that Tianzhen and Ouyang Ming had a deep grudge, but as a patrol envoy, Tianzhen's heart was too ruthless. After the competition, the 2 of them would compete in martial arts. Whoever lost would have to cripple their own meridians. Humph, Tianzhen, you don't have to play these little tricks. If you want to humiliate me, beat me first. Ouyang Ming said and directly left with Yi Xian and the other 2. Tianzhen looked at his departing figure and turned his head to the side. He said to the 3 youths behind him, with the realms of these 3 people, I'm afraid there's no need for you to make a move. They won't be able to live for long. If you see those 3 people, kill them. Yes. After Ouyang-ming left, he stood quietly with Yi Xian and the other two. He looked at Tianzhen's back and said, Tianzhen is the younger brother of the master of the Tian family. He is at the middle stage of the true spirit realm. The three people behind him are the best in the younger generation of the Tian family: Tianming, Tianying, and Tianxiong. These three people are already at the peak of LV10 martial path. They are very strong. If there are no accidents, they will get good names. Moreover, Tianying and Tianxiong are twins. They cooperate well. But Tianming is the strongest. He once fought Tianying and Tianxiong to a draw. So, if you meet the three of them later on, just run. Also, the competition in the Imperial City is very fierce, so you are considered to be alone. Remember, don't trust others except for yourself. Hearing Ouyang-ming's words, Yi Xian nodded solemnly. Ouyang-ming's last sentence meant that if the three of them met each other, they should not trust each other. Because this was an individual unit, not a team unit. However, Yi Xian did not care about the three people from the Tian family. With his current strength, as long as he did not meet those monsters in the true spirit realm, it would not be a problem. In the past 7 days, the Imperial City had organized a knockout competition to reduce the number of participants to less than 10,000. At this time, thousands of people had gathered in front of the Imperial City. Most of them were martial artists from the Imperial City, and there were more and more people. At this time, a purple figure suddenly appeared in the Imperial City. It was a person wearing purple satin. It looked like he was a high-ranking official. All participants, please bring your identity token and enter the Imperial City. The purple-robed man shouted. Go, from now on you will have to rely on yourselves. I will remind you one last time. The competition is important, but your life is more important. Especially you, Yi Xian. With your age, you can participate in the second competition. Don't lose your life. Ouyang-ming said sincerely. Yes, Sir Ouyang-ming. Yi Xian nodded respectfully. Deng Yang and Gu Yi also gave a fist salute to Ouyang-ming, then left by themselves. Although they were recommended by Ouyang-ming, from now on, they were competitors. Moreover, they were not familiar with each other, so there was no need for them to stay together. Yi Xian followed the group into the Imperial City. However, when he passed through the Imperial City's passage, a fat figure suddenly approached him. Hey, brother. You're also here to participate in the competition? An unfamiliar voice entered Yi Xian's ears, causing him to turn his head in surprise. He saw a fat man who was at least 150 kilograms close to him. Just now, Ouyang-ming had reminded him not to trust anyone else. As a result, Yi Xian looked at this 300-pound fatty warily. You're participating in the Imperial City's competition at such a young age, so you must be very strong. Let's get to know each other. The fat man shook his fierce-looking face and said, Have you heard of the saying, one never visits a temple without a cause? Yi Xian asked. You can't say that. Right now, we don't know what the competition is about, and I don't want anything from you. I just want to be friends. Give me some face, okay? The fat man said, then shook his eyebrows at Yi Xian, looking very wretched. After the fat man's reminder, Yi Xian also reacted. Indeed, he did not even know what the competition was about, and his water-splitting sword had been stored in the devouring space, so he only carried a high-grade mortal weapon on his back. After all, how could he not even afford a high-grade mortal weapon when participating in the competition? However, Yi Xian still carefully sized up this harmless fat man. He had a good impression of him, so he said, I'm Yi Xian. Chapter 122. Who are you trying to fool? Yi Xian secretly rolled his eyes. How could he eat so much in a year? What kind of joke was this? Don't look at me like that. I don't care if you believe it or not, but I do. Zhao Pan patted the fat on his chest and said, Don't be afraid, I'm still quite strong. I'll protect you when the time comes. Hearing this, Yi Xian realized that he couldn't sense Zhao Pan's aura. It seemed that Zhao Pan was at least in the middle of the 10th stage, or even the peak of the 10th stage. However, due to Zhao Pan's physique, Yi Xian couldn't tell his age. However, Yi Xian was astonished that Zhao Pan, who weighed more than 300 pounds, was wearing a large coarse hemp robe. He had a feeling that Zhao Pan wasn't someone to be trifled with. Right at this time. Wow! Zhao Pan's mouth suddenly opened wide. Yi Xian followed his gaze and saw a huge mirror hanging on the city wall. Ayaya, the capital competition this time is actually going to be held in the maze mirror. Zhao Pan exclaimed in shock. What is the maze mirror? Yi Xian turned his head and asked in astonishment. This was the first time he had heard of this name. You don't understand. I, fat bro, was born and raised in the imperial capital. I know a lot. Zhao Pan began to speak smugly. This maze void mirror is a great treasure of the profound Sun imperial family. It claims to be a space with mountains, water, and even the heaven-earth yuan qi is much more abundant than the outside world. Moreover, there are many heavenly treasures. His voice wasn't loud, but it attracted the attention of many people in the surroundings. They all gathered around. A space of its own? How is that possible? It's just a huge mirror. Some people didn't believe it. Zhao Pan looked at them in disdain and said, Ignorant. I've said it before, this maze mirror is a treasure. It's a spiritual weapon, and it's not an ordinary spiritual weapon. It appeared in the capital competition in the past. At that time, thousands of people entered in public. Do you think it's fake? I've heard of it too. It's said that the members of the royal family all cultivate in there, someone on the side echoed. Have you heard of a cosmos ring? A cosmos ring that can store anything. It's similar to this mirror of confusion. The world is huge, and there are many strange things. If you haven't heard of it, it can only mean that you are ignorant. Furthermore, cosmos rings can't store living things, but this mystifying void mirror can, Zhao Pan said haughtily. It was hard to imagine that a fat man in coarse hemp would know so much. Fatty bro, tell me more. Someone at the side believed him and hurriedly said. They were all here to participate in the competition, so it might be useful after listening to it. This mystifying mirror is very impressive. Not only can it hold 1,000 people, it can also reflect what is happening inside the mirror. If my guess is correct, there will be 36 secondary mirrors hanging outside the imperial city for others to see. These 36 mirrors are controlled by the experts of the royal family. If a battle breaks out within the mirrors, those outside will be able to see it as well, Zhao Pan continued. Does that mean that killing someone inside the mirror will be seen by others? Someone asked. You don't have to worry about that. There are only 36 secondary mirrors, and there are thousands of participants. It's not necessarily a coincidence that they will see it. Besides, if you can kill those descendants of the major clans, you might be able to catch the eye of a powerful figure. What's there to be afraid of? When Zhao Pan's words fell, the surrounding people also felt that it was reasonable and nodded in agreement. These people were also captivated by his words, so they listened intently. Suddenly, Zhao Pan chuckled and asked, Do you know when the most exciting event of the Imperial City Tournament was? The people at the side shook their heads. Even though they lived in the vicinity of the Imperial City, they didn't know much about the Imperial City Tournament. The grandest event of the Imperial City Tournament was 8 years ago. At that time, a total of 10,000 people entered the mystifying void mirror. Furthermore, their strength wasn't weak at all. 10th-rank martial path cultivators could be seen everywhere, and there were even quite a few true spirit realm cultivators. However, the strongest participant at that time wasn't just at the true spirit realm. Guess what realm he was at? Zhao Pan deliberately kept them in suspense. True spirit realm intermediate stage? Zhao Pan shook his head. Heavens, could he be at the peak of the true spirit realm? Zhao Pan shook his head again. That can't be, right? Could he be at the true energy realm? That's right, he was at the true energy realm. Back then, the Imperial City Tournament required one to be under 30 years old. He was 28 years old back then, so he met the requirements. Zhao Pan nodded. Hearing those words, the crowd was shocked. A 28-year-old true energy realm cultivator. How freakish was that? That can't be, right? I heard that the top experts of the 4 great clans are only at the peak of the true spirit realm. Is it true that he's at the true energy realm? If he was at the true energy realm 8 years ago, what realm is he at now? That's too terrifying. Who is that person? It must be a lie. The crowd's body temperature rose rapidly. Of course it's true, it even caused a huge commotion back then. Furthermore, it was the current emperor who personally tested his age. Zhao Pan looked at the crowd with disdain and said, This true energy realm cultivator in his 20s won the Imperial City Tournament. Naturally, The imperial family wouldn't let such a genius go, so he became the current crown prince's teacher. Hiss. The crowd sucked in a deep breath. The current crown prince's teacher was no ordinary person. When the crown prince ascended to the throne, this person would be the emperor's teacher, possessing an extremely high status. Fatty bro, you haven't told us his name yet. Someone asked. Alright, listen up, this super genius's surname is Yi. His name is Chong, Yi Chong. Zhao Pan replied with a smile. When this name was mentioned, Yi Xian was also shocked. Yi Chong. This name was extremely familiar to him, because his father's name was Yi Chong. It can't be, right? Unlucky Brat's father is actually so powerful? How is that possible? Yi Xian couldn't believe it. The Yi clan was just a small clan, they didn't even have an 8th grade martial path cultivator, so how could a true energy realm cultivator appear? It must be someone with the same name. However, Yi Xian suddenly recalled that Unlucky Brat's father had left the clan when he was young. No one knew where he went, and he had yet to return. The Yi clan seems to have a super expert protecting them. Could it be that Yi Chong is Unlucky Brat's father? After he left, he sent an expert to secretly protect the Yi clan? Yi Xian was very confused, so he immediately asked, Fatty bro, is this super genius in the imperial city now? Zhao Pan looked at Yi Xian with a faint smile and shook his head. No, this super genius stayed in the imperial city for a while, then went out to train. He hasn't returned yet. Chapter 123. They went out to train again? Yi Xian had many doubts in his heart, but at this moment, the large group in front of him suddenly stopped. Yi Xian snapped out of his daze and looked in front of him in astonishment. Could it be that they're really doing it in the mystifying mirror? There were city walls all around and a huge mirror hung in front of them, so most people guessed so. There were still people coming in behind, so Zhao Pan asked again, By the way, Yi Xian, you don't look like a local. Where are you from? Nanlin County. Recommended by the patrol inspector. Yi Xian replied casually, then asked, Fatty bro, how do you know so much? Haha, I have connections in the imperial court, so of course I know. Zhao Pan chuckled. I see. Then do you know anything else? For example, where did this person go? Yi Xian asked again. That I don't know. His whereabouts are mysterious. I'm afraid even the emperor doesn't know. I've already told you everything I know. Why, is Brother Yi interested in him? Zhao Pan asked. Yi Xian smiled and replied, Of course. I'm afraid anyone would be interested in such a genius. Very quickly, the people behind him also walked into the imperial city. After the last person entered, the city gate at the back also closed with a rumble. Everyone, the imperial capital tournament is about to begin. A figure suddenly appeared on the city wall in front of them. It was the purple-robed man from before. In an instant, the people below obediently shut their mouths and the entire crowd fell silent. Seeing this, the purple-robed man nodded in satisfaction and said, I'm sure everyone has received their identity tokens. Next, I'll explain the rules of the Imperial Capital Tournament. In the first round, you will enter the Imperial Capital's secret treasure, the mystifying mirror. The main point of this round is to collect points. From the moment you receive your identity token, you will have points. The early 9th level of the martial path will be 1 point, the middle 9th level will be 10 points, the peak 9th level will be 100 points, and so on. The Imperial Capital Tournament is ranked according to points. Furthermore, the top 100 points can be exchanged for treasures. 1 point is equivalent to 10 taels of gold. Hearing this, the nearly 10,000 people present were stunned. 1 point was equivalent to 10 taels of gold. If that was the case, then wouldn't those martial artists at the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path have 100,000 points at the start? That's 1 million gold taels, which is equivalent to 100 devour points. It had to be known that 1 million taels of gold was equivalent to 1 piece of low-grade crystal stone. If he gathered 2 more pieces, he would be able to purchase a spirit weapon. To put it simply, the initial points of a true spirit realm martial artist were equivalent to an interspatial ring. Hua! The entire crowd was in an uproar. However, there was still a prerequisite, and that was that one had to be ranked in the top 100. Otherwise, one would not be able to exchange for it. It was very difficult to be in the top 100. If they were to rank now, the top 100 would be at least in the middle of the 10th stage. Also, other than obtaining points from other people, You can find points everywhere in the maze mirror. You can find point tokens on trees, in caves, and even on the ground. After the purple-clothed man finished saying those words, he waved his hand. Then, the bewildering mirror that was hanging on the walls of the Imperial City slowly descended. Please take good care of your identity token. As long as you put 2 identity tokens together and circulate your spiritual energy, you will be able to absorb the points of other people's tokens. The first stage of the Imperial City tournament will last for a month. Now, you can enter the bewildering mirror one by one. When the purple-clothed man finished speaking, the bewildering mirror had already landed on the ground. This bewildering mirror was 3 meters tall. Then, the participants of the Imperial City tournament entered the bewildering mirror in an orderly manner. It's really amazing. I can actually enter the mirror. Yi Xian looked at the figures in front of him disappearing one by one. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Behind the bewildering mirror was the Imperial City wall. That was truly entering the mirror. The participants entered the bewildering mirror one by one. Soon, it was Yi Xian's turn. After entering the bewildering mirror, everyone will scatter. So, Brother Yi, you have to be careful. Zhao Pan reminded Yi Xian behind him. Yi Xian nodded and entered the bewildering mirror. Seeing Yi Xian disappear in front of him, Zhao Pan's eyes flickered a few times. Then, he entered the bewildering mirror. After entering the bewildering mirror, Yi Xian looked around and realized that he was in a forest. There was not a single living thing in the surroundings. The thousands of people had also disappeared. Amazing. It's really a treasure. The heaven and earth origin chi is very abundant. Cultivating here for a day is equivalent to cultivating for 10 days outside. I heard that even the members of the imperial family cultivate here. Yi Xian didn't dare to think further. In any case, it was a very high-class place. The first stage of the Imperial City tournament is to earn points. I'm in the middle stage of the 10th stage of the martial path, so I already have 10,000 points. However, those who are in the 10th stage of the martial path already have 100,000 points. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Previously, he saw that there were several geniuses in the true spirit realm in the information that Ouyang Ming gave him. These people had millions of points as soon as they entered. The difference was too big. However, 1 point could be exchanged for 10 taels of gold. His 10,000 points were equivalent to 100,000 taels of gold, which was equivalent to 10 million taels of silver. Thinking of this, Yi Xian couldn't help but grin. It seemed that he didn't make a mistake coming here. He estimated that after this tournament, he would be able to break through to the true spirit realm. Now that he had fused with the Archer bloodline, his eyesight was amazing. He looked around and found a point token in a tree hole not far away. He quickly went over and touched the token with his identity token. Then, he used his spiritual power to form a bridge and transferred the points from the token to his token. Only 1 point? What a waste of my expression. Yi Xian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Previously, the purple-clothed man said that there were many point tokens, but he guessed that most of them were only worth 1 or 10 points. Since he was lost, Yi Xian could only choose a random direction to go. However, he who had fused with the Archer bloodline found many good things. Oh my God, heaven and earth treasures are everywhere. Yi Xian was shocked. He had only run for less than a minute and found 7 or 8 heaven and earth treasures. Although each was only worth tens of thousands of taels of silver, many little drops made a mickle. In a few minutes, he could increase his spiritual power by 1 million taels of silver. This speed was even faster than when he hunted the mighty Vajra. The more abundant the heaven and earth essence chi was, the higher the probability of heaven and earth treasures appearing. Chapter 124. Ha ha ha, why are you still hiding your strength? Breakthrough. Yi Xian suddenly laughed and devoured the corpses of the mighty Vajras in the space. In an instant, his aura skyrocketed. Ding! The host has broken through to the peak of the 10th level of the martial path. The system notified. Now, Yi Xian was only 1 step away from the true spirit realm. It was unknown how long it would take for him to break through to the true spirit realm. Haha, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. After breaking through, Yi Xian's speed skyrocketed again. He began to run wildly and at the same time, he used his eagle eyes to scan the surroundings. He still had the bloodline of the treasure-hunting deer in his body, so all the treasures along the way were not spared and were devoured by him one by one. His spiritual energy was expanding bit by bit. In less than 10 minutes, he had collected several million taels of good stuff. However, the value of these items did not exceed 1 million taels of silver, so there would be no devouring points. Awesome, this is awesome. At this speed, I'll be able to break through to the true spirit realm in a few days. Yi Xian shouted in his heart. However, in the next moment, he suddenly discovered a problem. Right, the scene in the maze mirror will be reflected on the 36 side mirrors. In other words, someone might have found out about my interspatial ring. Forget it, so what if they know? Now, Yi Xian was not afraid of this at all. An interspatial ring was only worth 10 low-grade crystals. And he could buy one as long as he killed 10 martial artists at the peak of the 10th level of the martial path. As long as he broke through to the true spirit realm, who would dare to provoke him? However, 30 minutes after he entered the maze mirror, he finally encountered a participant. At the same time, this participant also noticed him. This was a person who was about 20 years old. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and sized up this person. He estimated that this person was at most a martial artist at the 10th level of the martial path. Such a young kid, it seems that he's not very strong. This martial artist looked at Yi Xian's slightly young face and did not say anything. He took a step forward and wanted to kill Yi Xian. Brat, your clan's elders are really not worried at all. They actually allowed you to participate in the Imperial Capital competition. Go to hell. The martial artist drew his sword and stabbed toward Yi Xian's throat. But right at this moment, Yi Xian's aura suddenly surged and the spiritual energy of a peak 10th stage martial path surged out. What? The martial artist's eyes widened. He didn't expect that he would encounter a second-rank master. The participants of the Imperial Capital Great Competition were divided into several tiers. The first tier was the elite who had left the martial path, which was the true spirit stage. The second tier was the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path, and there were about 100 of them. And he just so happened to meet one. Swish! With a gust of wind, the martial artist's eyes widened as he watched Yi Xian suddenly materialize a long sword and stab it into his chest. This is impossible. The martial artist thought to himself. It turned out that not only was Yi Xian at the peak of LV10, but he also had an interspatial ring and a spiritual weapon. Such a person would definitely have an extraordinary status. It wasn't a wise choice to provoke him. But it was too late for the martial artist to regret. Plop! The martial artist's corpse fell to the ground. If you want to kill me, you should be prepared to be killed. Yi Xian said lightly and then searched the martial artist's body. But he didn't find anything valuable. There was only a high-grade mortal weapon and some elixirs that were very cheap to him. There wasn't even a single herb. Yi Xian didn't have the habit of wasting things and swallowed all of them. Intermediate 10th stage martial path. 10,000 points. Not bad, not bad. Yi Xian transferred the martial artist's points to him. At this moment, he had 20,000 points. What a pity. If I had known, I would have broken through before coming in. That way, I would have at least 100,000 points. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly and then left. For the rest of the time, Yi Xian kept pacing back and forth. Although he didn't have much knowledge now, he had the bloodline of Eagle Eye and the treasure hunting deer. As long as he came across something good, he would pick it and swallow it without hesitation. In fact, the number of people participating in the Imperial Capital Tournament was far more than these thousands of people. In the first round of elimination, more than 100,000 people were eliminated. Now that these thousands of people had entered the maze mirror, they would definitely fight if they encountered each other. In less than an hour, hundreds of people had died. There was still a month left. Who would survive to the end? After entering the maze mirror, Yi Xian came to a treasure trove. Not many participants had interspatial rings, so the good things along the way were all taken advantage of by him. At this time, a few hours had already passed. It's evening? Seeing that the sky had darkened, Yi Xian was startled. He estimated the time and found that the time in the maze mirror was about the same as outside. Very few people move at night. Most of them are resting. However, this doesn't affect me much. Yi Xian thought to himself. With his strength, he was probably at the top of the ladder among the participants. The maze mirror was a treasure trove, so he didn't want to waste any time. However, at this time, a different roar suddenly came from the forest. A woo! This roar clearly didn't come from people fighting, but from a demonic beast. There are demonic beasts in the maze mirror? After hearing this roar, Yi Xian frowned. He followed the sound and quickly found a demonic beast. It was a 9th-rank white feather demonic wolf. My luck is not bad. Looks like I won't have to eat rations tonight. Yi Xian smiled and took out the golden eagle bow. He used a supernova arrow to kill the white feather demonic wolf. He walked over and used the water splitter sword to cut off a piece of meat, preparing to roast it. However, at this time, he suddenly realized that there was something in the demonic wolf's body. It was a token of points. So demonic beasts also have tokens in their bodies. Looks like there's another way to obtain them. Yi Xian nodded in satisfaction. He then directly devoured the corpse of the white feather demonic wolf. However, before him, there were already many people who found demonic beasts and killed them. They also coincidentally found the token in the demonic beast's body. These people were overjoyed. They then disguised the scene, thinking that they couldn't let others know. After all, this was another way to increase their points. Who knows, they might come across more demonic beast corpses in the future. At the same time, in the Mystic Sun Imperial Capital's palace, a group of officials were looking at the 36 mirrors hanging in the sky. They were making a commotion. Chapter 125. Oh, the Emperor is really going all out this time. He even added a way for demonic beasts to earn points. It seems like the top 10 will have 1,000,000 points this time. 1,000,000 points is equivalent to 10 low-grade crystals. It's enough to buy a few spiritual weapons. According to the rules, the top 100 can exchange their points for gold. If we calculate, we'll need a few thousand low-grade crystals, or even tens of thousands of low-grade crystals. TSK, TSK, TSK. Who will make it to the top 10 this time? I'm looking forward to it. Of course, it will be the son of the National Protector General, Jiang Xian. Sigh, it won't be a problem for these true Spirit Realm cultivators to make it to the top 10. But there are only 6 true Spirit Realm cultivators. There are still 4 spots left. I heard that Tian Ming from the Tian family is doing well. He has already reached the peak of LV10. This time, he might break through in the competition. These ministers watched and discussed as they watched. There were civil officials and generals among these officials. Not only that, but the Xianyang Empire's 16 patrol envoys were also present. However, the Emperor of the Xianyang Empire did not appear. Just now, one of the 36 side mirrors in the palace had reflected Yi Xian's battle. When Ouyang Ming saw it, his tiger body trembled. Yi Xian, don't let me down. Ouyang Ming sat there quietly as he thought to himself. It was already night time. Whether it was outside or inside the maze mirror, large lanterns were lit. However, the people outside and inside the palace did not decrease at all. Inside the maze mirror. I've rested enough. It's time for me to go hunting. Yi Xian jumped down from a tree. He had rested for a while and had a meal. Now, he was preparing to hunt through the night. With the 100 Flowers bloodline, his recovery ability was amazing. He only needed to rest for a while and he would be full of energy. Although night had fallen, his vision was still better than others. He quickly moved a distance away and found a martial artist resting on a tree. He immediately drew his bow and shot a supernova arrow at him. Whoosh! Boom! The supernova arrow accurately hit the tree trunk and blasted the martial artist who was resting on the tree to the ground. Then, Yi Xian took a big stride forward and placed his cleaving water sword on his opponent's neck. Do you want points or your life? Before the martialist could react, he felt a cold sensation on his neck. When he heard Yi Xian's cold words, he hurriedly took out his token. There are others. Yi Xian continued. This cultivator was scared half to death, not daring to hide anything. He had no choice but to hand over some of the natural treasures he had just picked. Goodbye. After Yi Xian transferred the points from the token to himself, he returned the token to him. This martial artist was only at the peak of the 9th stage of the martial path. He had no chance of winning against Yi Xian. If it was an ordinary person, they would not hesitate to slit the other party's throat and take all their points and belongings. However, Yi Xian was still merciful. As long as the other party did not intend to kill him, he would spare his life. After all, the other party could continue to collect points, and the two of them might meet again in the future. The sky was very dark, and most people would have hidden away to rest. However, Yi Xian did not. The sky still has some effect on me. Forget it. I'll buy a bloodline. With a thought, Yi Xian used 200 devouring points to exchange for a bloodline called the Shadow Leopard. This Shadow Leopard had the ability to see in the dark, and when it was upgraded to the intermediate level, it could use the night to hide. It was also a bloodline that could be upgraded. With the help of the Shadow Leopard bloodline, Yi Xian's efficiency was extremely high. In just half an hour, he had collected many good things and robbed dozens of people. At this time, his points had reached 100,000. However, he did not even see a single peak 10th stage martial artist. Instead, he saw many corpses. It seems that these people are merciless. They kill as many as they can. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. He wondered how many people would be able to leave the maze mirror alive in a month's time. As he thought about it, he hurried on. Unknowingly, he had left the forest and arrived at a grassland. What a strong spiritual aura. It's in that direction. As soon as he left the forest, Yi Xian's treasure-hunting deer bloodline came into effect. He immediately ran in that direction. When he got close to the spiritual aura, he found that it was a large stone tablet. On the tablet there was a total of 500 rankings. First place, Jiang Xian, 1. 21 million. Second place, Li Xiaotian, 1. 18 million. Third place, Lu Yu, 1. 15 million. Fourth place. Yi Xian glanced and found that the first 6 places were occupied by the children of high officials. These 6 people were all experts of the true spirit realm. It seems that their speed is not fast. However, this is only the first day. I'm afraid that the points will shoot up in an instant. Yi Xian then focused on the 7th place. It was a familiar name. Tianming. 360,000 points. Oh, this Tianming's speed is faster than the 6 experts of the true spirit realm. It seems that he is lucky to encounter 2 peak 10th stage martial artists. Humph, you better not meet me, or I'll kill you. Yi Xian snorted. Yi Xian did not have a good impression of the Tian family. The Tian family had some influence in the imperial capital. Tian Zhan, the younger brother of the head of the family, was the imperial inspector. This had nothing to do with Yi Xian. However, Tian Zhan had a bet with Ouyang Ming. Whoever lost would destroy his own meridians. This meant that he would become a useless person in the future, and even lose his position as the imperial inspector. Although he did not understand the conflict between Ouyang Ming and Tian Zhan, Yi Xian was recommended by Ouyang Ming. Naturally, he would help Ouyang Ming. At this moment, boom! Suddenly, a ray of light rose into the sky and then exploded in the air. The bright light immediately attracted Yi Xian's attention. This is the heavenly thunder cannon. It should be used by some families to meet. Yi Xian also reacted at once. There were nearly 10,000 people participating in the imperial capital competition. Most of them were disciples of the families. If they gathered together, they would be a strong force. Although Yi Xian did not know which family they were from, the fact that they could use the heavenly thunder cannon to gather their companions showed that there were many people from this family. Since they were from a big family, their strength would be relatively stronger and they would have more points. However, when Yi Xian quietly sneaked over, he found that he knew this family. He actually knew them. Chapter 126. The Tian family originally had 3 recommendation spots, and with the addition of Tian Zhen's 3 recommendation spots, there would be 6. However, this did not mean that the Tian family only sent 6 people, because the others could still participate in the elimination round. The reason why they used the recommendation spots was that they did not want to cause gossip. If Tian Ming were to participate in the elimination round, there would definitely be many people gossiping. At this time, not far in front of Yi Xian, there were 2 young men wearing the Tian family's uniform. They were holding a sky thunder cannon in their hands and seemed to be preparing to shoot another one. It seems that they want to attract others, then rob the points and meet the other disciples of the Tian family. Yi Xian saw through the intention of these 2 people. However, when he went out, 3 figures converged towards the 2 disciples of the Tian family, so he stopped again. TSK. Only 3 people are attracted. The 2 disciples of the Tian family suddenly jumped down from the tree. Tian family? When the 3 cultivators saw the 2 men's clothes, they were shocked and immediately turned around to run. Want to leave? Stay here. The 2 Tian family members quickly rushed out and killed the 3 people. Then they transferred their points to their own identity tokens. TSK, only a total of 1,000 points. One of the disciples of the Tion family spat and said disdainfully, "This is not bad. A sky thunder cannon is less than 1 tael of gold. 1,000 points is 10,000 taels of gold. As long as we transfer all the points to Tion Ming in the end, we will make a lot of money." Another disciple of the Tion family said, "That's right, but our uniforms are really good. They ran away when they saw us and didn't even look back." "That's right, our surname is Tion. Although we can kill people here, who dares to really attack us? Haha, it seems that we can make a fortune. After this, we may be able to break through to the peak of Martial Dao Realm 10th level." Just as the two disciples were chatting, suddenly there were two sounds of breaking through the air. Sneak attack? The two of them just reacted, but in the next moment, their hearts were pierced by a burst of chi strength. Yi Xian walked out from not far away. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Obviously, he was the oriole. He's even wearing 2 high-grade mortal artifact armors. Is this person so afraid of death? Yi Xian said in surprise as he flipped open a person's clothes. Fortunately, he was the one who launched the sneak attack. Otherwise, the arrow just now would not have been able to break through these 2 treasured armors. However, this was also an unexpected gain for him. Both of them were at the mid-10th stage of the martial path and could be considered elites of the Tion family. Their points added up to about 30,000. As for the rest, they were all devoured by Yi Xian. I wonder if my actions are reflected in the maze mirror. After cleaning up the battlefield, Yi Xian could not help but think about it, but he was not afraid. Killing was allowed in the Imperial Capital Tournament. Moreover, with so many people here, the probability of appearing on the secondary mirror was very small. Moreover, after this competition, he would definitely be appreciated by some important figure. Could it be that he would still be afraid of the Tion family who only had 1 patrol envoy? Then, Yi Xian left. This time, he had obtained 30,000 points, which was equivalent to 300,000 taels of gold. This Imperial Capital Tournament was really profitable. However, if he wanted to exchange his points for gold, he had to squeeze into the top 100. Yi Xian had seen the ranking stone tablet before. He had already rushed into the top 100. Now, with the 30,000 points, he had almost 200,000 points. He estimated that he would be ranked around 70. However, this was only the first day. The more time passed, the fewer people there would be, and the higher the points would be. That night, Yi Xian was running around. The maze mirror was not much different from the outside world. After a busy night, he hid in a cave. At this time, his points had reached more than 300,000. Most of them were from robberies, while some were from picking up and killing monsters. However, the biggest gain was the large amount of items he had devoured. He estimated that they were worth at least 2 spiritual artifacts. At the same time, after a night, the rankings on the scoreboard had also changed. Jiang Xian, the son of the National Guardian General, had reached 1.8 million points. As for the other 5 true spirit realm cultivators, only the order had changed. They all had around 1.5 million points. However, to everyone's astonishment, an unfamiliar name appeared between the 7th to 10th ranks. Zhao Pan. Originally, the 7th to 10th place were all disciples of the big families in the imperial capital. Everyone knew who they were. However, this Zhao Pan left everyone scratching their heads in confusion. He was ranked 10th with 550,000 points. When Yi Xian saw this name, he was shocked as well. However, when he thought about how there were nearly 10,000 people participating in the imperial capital competition, there were a lot of people with the same name. He also discovered a few people called Yi Xian and some called Yi Zhang, so he didn't pay too much attention to them. Although he did not squeeze into the top 10, Yi Xian did not care. After all, this was only the first day. Moreover, most of the people today were picking heaven and earth treasures. Occasionally, they would encounter people who would rob them. Moreover, the people he encountered were very weak. None of them was at the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path. He rested in the cave for 2 hours. When the sky was bright, he left to continue hunting. However, not long after he left, he encountered a young man. A young man who looked very ordinary. However, Yi Xian could sense that the young man was pretending to be weak. It feels like he's at the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path. Looks like he has quite a lot of points. Yi Xian approached the young man. The young man's senses were very sharp. When he saw Yi Xian's face, he subconsciously said, "So young." He was indeed at the peak of the 10th stage of the martial path. However, he was already 25 years old. He met the requirements of the Imperial Capital Tournament. So what if I'm young? Yi Xian stopped and smiled. Since you've had a hard time cultivating, I'll let you go if you leave your point token behind. The young man sighed. Oh, what if I don't? The corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly. He liked it when people looked down on him. Hearing that, the young man's expression changed immediately. If that's the case, I'll have to do it myself. As soon as he finished speaking, his body flashed and he pounced on Yi Xian like a cheetah. You're a martial artist. Not bad. Yi Xian immediately saw that the young man had tempered his body. However, in front of his 100-beast bloodline, any tempered body technique was useless. Bang! Chapter 127. How is this possible? The young man clutched his right hand. He could feel that his right arm was dislocated. Moreover, his opponent had shown mercy. Otherwise, his arm would have been crippled. Hand over the items and I'll let you go. Yi Xian strode forward and pressed the water splitter sword against the young man's throat. Winner takes all. The young man was rather straightforward. He threw all his belongings to Yi Xian. With the treasure-hunting deer bloodline, Yi Xian was not afraid that the young man would hide his belongings. Oh, Zhou Yun, 9th on the rankings. After seeing the name on the token, Yi Xian was a little surprised. It turned out that he was a descendant of the Zhou family in the imperial capital. As he spoke, he also threw the token back. Zhou Yun had a total of 480,000 points. Yi Xian already had more than 300,000 points. Now that he had 480,000 points, he immediately squeezed into the top 10 of the rankings. He even took away the 7th place of the Tian family's Tian Ming. Then, Yi Xian swallowed all the good things on the ground in front of him, leaving only a bottle of healing medicine. An interspatial ring? What's your name? Why haven't I heard of you before? Zhou Yun asked in surprise. Hee, you'll know after looking at the rankings. I'm not as precious as you. I'm just a nobody. Yi Xian laughed and then hurried away. Wait! Zhou Yun suddenly called out. What? Don't tell me you still want to die? Yi Xian said in surprise. If you let me live, I'll tell you a piece of news. About 10 minutes in this direction, there's a mountain. There's a spirit beast on that mountain. I reckon that there are quite a few people who are eyeing that spirit beast. If you're interested, you can go take a look. Zhou Yun pointed in a direction. Spirit beast? Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He was really interested. Spirit beasts were rare. The only type of spirit beast he had seen was the horned flood dragon under the Black Lake. That's right. I'm coming from that direction. There are people gathering there. I felt that one spirit beast wasn't enough, so I left. Zhou Yun nodded. All right, thanks a lot. Yi Xian nodded his head, then left. According to Yangming's guess, the spirit beast probably had a points badge inside its body, which was worth 1 million points. If he could get 1 million points, he would probably be able to squeeze into the top 6 or even first place because there were others there. Following the direction Zhou Yun pointed, Yi Xian sprinted for more than a minute. Sure enough, he saw a mountain. At this time, there were already a few people gathered at the foot of the mountain. More people are coming, more people are coming. At the foot of the mountain, a martial artist shouted loudly. Yi Xian looked from afar and couldn't help but frown. This was because he discovered that there was actually someone from the Tian family among these people. What a small world. Yi Xian coldly snorted in his heart. Then, he used his normal speed to approach the other party. There were a total of 6 people at the foot of the mountain, and only one of them was a disciple of the Tian family. However, when he got closer, the Tian family member suddenly frowned and said, Tisk, it's just a kid. I don't think he's that strong, but it's fine. He'll attract the spirit beast's attention later. The others didn't say anything. They felt that it made sense. They were about to face a spirit beast, and no one wanted to attract its attention. They didn't give Yi Xian a chance to refute, but all of them had locked onto Yi Xian. If Yi Xian dared to move, he would be attacked by the 6 of them in an instant. Yi Xian didn't say anything. Instead, he silently sized up the 6 of them. 2 of them are at the peak of 10th realm, and 4 are at the middle of 10th realm. The 2 of them included the Tian family member. He didn't expect that in addition to Tian Ming, Tian Ying, and Tian Xiong, there were other geniuses of this realm in the Tian family. At this time, a martial artist opened his mouth and said, "With just the few of us, I'm afraid we're still a little weak. Let's wait for another peak martial artist or 2 more at the middle of 10th realm before we go." "Okay, but how should we distribute them?" Someone suddenly asked and glanced at the Tian family member. "Humph." The Tian family member snorted and said, "A spirit beast is worth 1,000,000 points, which is 10 low-grade crystals. And a spirit beast core is worth 5 low-grade crystals. I only want the spirit beast core, and you can divide the points among yourselves." "Are you kidding me?" Before the Tian family member finished his words, another peak martial artist laughed and said, "Do you think we're idiots? A spirit beast core is priceless. If I get this spirit beast core, I might be able to break through to the true spirit realm. Do you think I'll give it to you?" "That's right. If I get it, I can at least break through to the peak of 10th realm." "That's right. Don't think you're so great just because you're from the Tian family." Someone immediately agreed. "Okay, then we'll distribute it after we kill the spirit beast." The Tian family member snorted. Although he said it tactfully, everyone present understood that after killing the spirit beast, they would fight and the winner would take the spirit beast core. The other peak martial artist immediately nodded. Among the people present, he and the Tian family member were the strongest. The 4 mid-10th realm martial artists looked at each other. Now, did they have a way out? If they didn't agree, they would be killed by the 2 peak martial artists in an instant. As for Yi Xian, the 6 of them treated him as cannon fodder, so it didn't matter. They waited for a while, but no one came. Helpless, the Tian family member said, "It seems that no one is here. Let's go up and see how strong the spirit beast is. We'll come down if we can't handle it." "Okay." The other peak martial artist nodded. However, just as they were about to climb the mountain, a figure suddenly appeared in the distance. "Someone's here. Wait a little longer," the pinnacle martial artist said. However, when he saw the face of the person who had come, his face turned pale. "Oh no, why is it him?" Everyone's face changed. As for Yi Xian, he also recognized the person. It was Tian Xiong, whom he met once outside the imperial city. "Haha, brother Xiong." The Tian family member laughed. Tian Xiong was very fast. Before the others could react, he had already arrived. "Tian Chao, what are you doing here?" Tian Xiong asked in surprise as he approached. "Brother Xiong, there's a spirit beast on the mountain. We're gathering people," Tian Chao said. Hearing this, Tian Xiong's eyes lit up. The spirit beast core was very important to him, who was stuck at the peak of 10th realm of the martial path. "We have enough people." Tian Xiong looked around and finally fixed his eyes on Yi Xian. However, he didn't say anything because he already regarded Yi Xian as a dead man. "Yes, that's enough. Let's go, you guys lead the way." Chapter 128. I've heard of Tian Xiong's name. With your strength you can take down that spirit beast. So, I'll take my leave. The peak martial artist was obviously extremely afraid of Tian Xiong. After cupping his fists, he turned to leave. "Stop!" Tian Xiong shouted. "You think you can come and go as you please? Who do you think I am? Stay or die. Don't go too far. I'm a member of the Zhou family," the peak martial artist said with a livid expression. He thought that by announcing his family background, he would be able to make Tian Xiong fear him. However, he overestimated himself. "Humph! You can't even enter the capital. What qualifications do you have to make me, Tian Xiong, fear you? Cut the crap. You lead the way or die." Tian Xiong suddenly pulled out the broadsword on his back. The Zhou family disciple's face had already sunk to the bottom. He could only nod helplessly. He knew that if he helped Tian Xiong and Tian Chao kill the spirit beast, the other party would definitely turn on him and kill everyone. Therefore, if he wanted to live, he could only escape when fighting the spirit beast. As for the other 4 martial artists, they were even more desperate. Although they were only 1 level lower than Tian Xiong, Tian Xiong's strength could probably kill them in an instant. Therefore, they could only obediently lead the way. Seeing the 5 of them start to go up the mountain, Tian Xiong's gaze also fell on Yi Xian. "You follow." Yi Xian didn't say anything and just followed silently. He wasn't afraid of Tian Xiong, but he wasn't confident in facing the spirit beast alone, so he wanted to take a look first. The 8 of them started to go up the mountain. However, just as they were halfway up, one of them suddenly jumped away and prepared to escape. "Want to leave?" "Dang." Tian Xiong had already expected this possibility. He raised his right hand and a blade light swept towards that person. Rip. The mid-stage 10th realm martial artist was instantly cut in half as if he was cutting tofu. So strong. Even I can't dodge that blade light. The peak martial artist's heart trembled. Who else wants to leave? Stand out. Tian Xiong stared and roared domineeringly. In fact, the other 3 mid-stage 10th realm martial artists also wanted to escape, but after seeing the miserable state of that unlucky guy, they immediately swallowed their saliva. Now wasn't the best time to escape. Very good. If this trip goes smoothly, I might consider giving you some points. Tian Xiong nodded in satisfaction. Hearing this, the others' faces were gloomy. They knew that this time, if they weren't killed by that powerful spirit beast, they would definitely be silenced by Tian Xiong. Consider getting some points? What kind of joke was this? Was he going to kill them after he got the points? They were very angry, but what could they do in the face of absolute strength? Roar! More than 10 minutes after they started climbing the mountain, an angry roar suddenly fell into everyone's ears. Immediately after, they discovered corpses. They were the cultivators who had climbed the mountain before. Tian Xiong examined the corpses and found that these people either had their throats crushed or their ribs broken. Seeing this, the atmosphere in the team became gloomier. Bear-type spirit beasts were generally known for their strength and defense. Tian Xiong was confident that he could break through their defense, but the others didn't. Whoosh! Taking advantage of the time when Tian Xiong was checking the bodies, a figure suddenly left the team and ran toward the forest. However, a cold light flashed past and instantly split him in half. Humph! This cold light was from Tian Xiong. He snorted and didn't even look at it. You people actually want to escape from me? You really don't know what's good for you. If anyone dares to have such thoughts, I will first cut off their legs and then feed them to the spirit beast. Tian Xiong said slowly. From the beginning, he didn't intend to let Yi Xian and the others leave. Just now, he said that he would split the points casually. The remaining 2 mid-stage 10th realm martial artists were already in despair. With their strength, it was impossible to escape from Tian Xiong's eyes. If they didn't escape, they would probably be killed by that spirit beast. What should they do? Roar. There were continuous roars coming from the mountain. They moved closer and closer. The sound was getting closer and closer. Not long after, a black bear that was at least 3 meters tall appeared in front of them. Gulp! The 3 people in front of Yi Xian swallowed their saliva. It seemed that there was going to be a tough battle. So it's a berserk black bear. Although it has extraordinary strength, it's not fast. With my Tian family's movement technique and the others, killing this berserk black bear is not a problem. If I learn a spirit-level movement technique, I can do it alone. Tian Xiong said in his heart. Although the Tian family was a big family, they didn't have a spirit-level martial art. In the entire empire, only the imperial family had a spirit-level martial art. On the side, Tian Chao also pulled out his long sword. The defense of this berserk black bear was very strong. He couldn't guarantee that his attack could break through the defense of this berserk black bear. However, he believed that Tian Xiong could do it. Tian Xiong used a saber and learned a fierce martial art. It was very powerful. At the same time, he also knew that if he successfully killed this spirit beast, the inner core would definitely be taken away by Tian Xiong. However, he could at least get a share of the soup. Tian Xiong ate the meat, and he drank the soup. Moreover, Tian Xiong would definitely not treat him unfairly because his father was Tian Zhen, the Empire's patrol inspector. The few of you, if anyone dares to run during the battle, I, Tian Xiong, will be the first to kill him. Tian Xiong said to Yi Xian and the others. Seeing that they didn't speak, Tian Xiong snorted coldly. After exchanging a look with Tian Chao, he shouted, "Go!" In an instant, he rushed out. As soon as he landed, a huge saber light slashed towards the berserk black bear. At the same time, the others also rushed out and attacked the berserk black bear. As for Tian Chao, he stayed where he was. Tian Xiong gave him a look just now, telling him to stay here to prevent anyone from escaping. Bang! The saber light was the first to reach the berserk black bear, but it was scattered by a slap from the berserk black bear. It's really powerful. Try this move. Tian Xiong shouted and suddenly rushed to the back of the berserk black bear. He slashed heavily with his saber and directly cut the berserk black bear's fur. Swish! The saber was embedded in the berserk black bear's back. This was within Tian Xiong's expectations. After all, the saber in his hand was a spirit weapon. Chapter 129. Tian Chao. Suddenly, Tian Xiong shouted. Tian Chao's eyes lit up as he attacked. However, he didn't attack the berserk black bear, but the three martial artists and Yi Xian. Tian Xiong wasn't sure if he could kill the berserk black bear, but now he was confident, so he signaled Tian Chao to kill them. The two martial artists in the middle stage of the 10th realm couldn't dodge in time and were cut in half. As for the Zhou family disciple, he managed to block it, but unfortunately, Tian Chao's weapon was also a spiritual weapon. His weapon was instantly cut in half and he was sent flying. Swoosh! Taking advantage of this opportunity, Tian Xiong once again slashed out with a slash, killing this peak martial artist. Now, only Tian Xiong and Tian Chao were left. Something's not right. Suddenly, Tian Chao realized that something was wrong. He had slashed 4 times, but only 3 corpses were left. Where was the 4th person? It's that cannon fodder. Where's that cannon fodder? Tian Chao turned his head in surprise. He clearly remembered that he had slashed at Yi Xian, but where was his corpse? Humph! Consider yourself lucky that you escaped. Tian Chao snorted in his heart. He didn't know Yi Xian, so he couldn't be bothered to chase after him. Instead, he joined the battle. It wouldn't be a problem for 2 cultivators in the 10th stage of the martial path to fight a spiritual beast with spiritual artifacts. Their attacks were able to injure the berserk black bear, but the berserk black bear was slower than them, so it could only take a beating. After a while, the berserk black bear was covered in blood, and its screams echoed throughout the forest. Tian Xiong didn't notice what happened to Yi Xian. He was focused on attacking the berserk black bear. In less than half a minute, the berserk black bear had lost an arm, greatly reducing its combat strength. It was estimated that it would be killed by Tian Xiong and Yi Xian in less than 10 seconds. Yi Xian had already hidden in the forest and took out his golden eagle bow. The moment Tian Xiong and Yi Xian killed the berserk black bear would be the moment for him to attack. However, just as the berserk black bear was about to be killed, a roar suddenly rang out in the forest. Roar! Tian Xiong and Tian Xiong were a little surprised because this voice came from not far away. They pondered for a moment, then their expressions changed. There's a second berserk black bear. Tian Xiong immediately reacted. It turned out that there were 2 spirit beasts on this mountain. Die for me! Tian Xiong's eyes widened as he aimed at the scarred berserk black bear in front of him. Abruptly, he slashed out with all his might. Hiss! The saber light cut off one of the berserk black bear's thighs. This berserk black bear did not have much combat power left. But at this moment, a second berserk black bear came running from not far away. Moreover, this berserk black bear was a size bigger than the one that fell to the ground. It was at least 4 meters tall. Oh no, it's the middle stage true spirit realm. Tian Xiong shouted loudly. Tian Chao also understood that they had to leave. Facing the berserk black bear at the early stage of the true spirit realm, the 2 of them could still kill it with their spiritual weapons. However, this spirit beast was obviously at the middle stage of the true spirit realm. If they did not run away, they would be smashed into meat paste. Let's go! Tian Xiong and Tian Chao looked at each other and immediately turned around, ready to leave. However, the moment they turned around, they suddenly saw a series of cold lights sweeping towards them. Boom! 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 Tian Xiong and Tian Chao were both hit by 2 exploding star arrows and were instantly blown away. However, they flew in a bad direction and landed right beside the berserk black bear at the middle stage of the true spirit realm. Roar! It's over! Tian Xiong and Tian Chao, who were lying on the ground, looked at the berserk black bear that seemed to be taller than the sky. In the next moment, They felt a sharp pain in their chest and the crisp sound of bones breaking was very clear. The two of them were directly killed by this berserk black bear with one punch. Such terrifying destructive power. If I was hit by this punch, I'm afraid I would also be dead. Yi Xian, who was hiding in the forest, broke out in a cold sweat. However, he still shot a chaotic arrow at this berserk black bear. A cold light instantly split into 9 and shot towards this berserk black bear. Bang! 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 9 consecutive explosions sounded, but this berserk black bear was not harmed at all. Such strong defensive power. Yi Xian was shocked. At the same time, this berserk black bear rushed towards Yi Xian. This berserk black bear on the ground was its child. And now, Yi Xian was the only one alive. If it did not seek revenge on Yi Xian, who would it seek revenge on? Humph! Try this again. Yi Xian pulled the golden eagle bow again. When he released his right hand, a spiritual arrow had already pierced through the air. Spirit-level martial technique. Sharpshooter. This berserk black bear blocked with its hand, but sharpshooter was a spirit-level martial technique. Coupled with the golden eagle bow and the enhancement of the archer bloodline, even if it was known for its defensive power, it could not block this attack. The spiritual arrow instantly pierced through its palm and then directly hit its heart. It's not dead? Yi Xian was a little shocked and hurriedly shot another arrow. This time, the spiritual arrow directly pierced through the berserk black bear's heart. The berserk black bear that was comparable to the middle stage of the true spirit realm was dead. Plop! This 4-meter-tall giant body heavily smashed onto the ground, stirring up a thick cloud of dust. Yi Xian looked at this berserk black bear's corpse and heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had underestimated his strength. His spiritual weapon, spirit-level martial technique, and archer bloodline made his attack power extraordinary. He was probably the only contestant in the entire maze mirror who had the strength to kill a middle-stage true spirit realm spirit beast. It's said that the spiritual weapon and spirit-level martial technique can only be unleashed at the true spirit realm. TSK. 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 I really want to break through to the true spirit realm. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Yi Xian could not help but laugh. Then he quickly ran over, took out the water splitter sword, and killed the berserk black bear that was riddled with wounds but not dead. He took out the points token and silently chanted. Devour. Yi Xian prioritized devouring this small berserk black bear's corpse. Ding! The host has devoured a spirit beast's corpse. The host has obtained 100 devour points. Ding! The 100 beast essence blood slot has increased by 1 point. Ding! The host has devoured a spirit beast's inner core. The host has obtained 500 devour points. After hearing the system notification, Yi Xian was shocked. This spirit beast's corpse had actually provided him with more than 600 devour points. Chapter 130. What the F***CK? This small spiritual beast is worth so many points. What about this big one? Thinking of this, Yi Xian rushed to the big black bear, took out the token from its body, and swallowed it. Ding! The host has swallowed a spiritual beast's corpse. The reward is 500 devouring points. Ding! The host has swallowed a spiritual beast's inner core. The reward is 2,500 devouring points. F***CK. F***CK. 3,000 devouring points for a corpse. I'm rich, I'm rich. Yi Xian was so shocked that he could not speak. These two spiritual beasts' corpses had already earned him 3,600 devouring points, which was worth 3.6 billion. In an instant, the spiritual energy in his body increased by a large amount, and he was already at the peak of LV10 martial path. Just a little more and he would be able to break through to the true spirit realm. But at this moment, the system notification sounded again. Ding! The host has swallowed a spiritual beast's corpse. The 100 Beasts pill has been activated. 100 Beasts pill. Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat, and immediately checked the devouring system. Sure enough, there was a new item in the elixir column. 100 Beasts pill, after consumption, can increase the 100 Beasts blood essence slot by 100 points. Boom! Yi Xian was so happy that he was going crazy. Now that his 100 Beasts blood essence slot had reached more than 700 points, he only needed 200 more points to upgrade his 100 Beasts bloodline to the intermediate level. But when he saw the price of the 100 Beasts pill, he almost fainted. This 100 Beasts pill was actually worth 500 devouring points. That was too extravagant. 500 devouring points could be used to buy a spiritual weapon, which could be sold for at least 300 million. 300 million taels of silver. How could he not get more than 200 types of demonic beast blood essences that he had not swallowed before? Therefore, Yi Xian felt that he should wait a little longer. Although he was happy, Yi Xian did not forget to collect the spoils of war. After a while, he had already collected all the corpses on the ground. Tian Xiong and Tian Chao both had spiritual weapons, so Yi Xian swallowed the two weapons together with the good stuff on them. Ding! The host has broken through to the early stage of the true spirit realm. Finally, he broke through. Ha ha ha! When he heard the system notification in his mind, Yi Xian couldn't help but laugh out loud. He had already broken away from the martial path and achieved true soul. Wow, so this is a true spirit? It's much stronger than spiritual energy. My current combat strength is at least 10 times greater than before. The moment he broke through, all the spiritual energy in Yi Xian's body transformed into a true spirit. Then, he activated the true spirit and attached it to his body. True spirit defense. Now, even if he stood there and allowed others to attack him, there would not be many people who could break through his defense. If he had used the lotus armor, even that huge berserk black bear would not have been able to break through it so easily. Ding! Unlocked intermediate bloodline fusion. Ding! Unlocking array. Ding! Unlocking alchemy function. Ding! Unlocking the refining function. A series of system notifications stunned Yi Xian. He quickly checked and found that there was an additional array in the martial arts section. It was further divided into battle array, defensive array, and spiritual array. The alchemy and refining functions were easier to understand. For example, the alchemy function was to use devour points to buy a pill formula and then collect the materials. Once the materials were collected, the alchemy could begin. It was cheaper than buying it directly. Moreover, there were some pills that could not be bought in the devour system. The refining function was the same. Awesome, awesome. Yi Xian couldn't help but roar a few times. At this moment, he couldn't vent his excitement. Since he had broken through to the true spirit realm and could fuse with the intermediate bloodline, Yi Xian immediately spent 1,000 devour points to raise the wind-chasing leopard bloodline to the intermediate bloodline. At this moment, he had more than 4,000 devour points left. Whatever, I'll increase my strength first. 300 beasts pills, come out. With a thought, 3 pills with strange patterns appeared in Yi Xian's hand. He opened his mouth and swallowed the 3 pills. Ding! 100 beasts essence blood slot increased by 100 points. Ding! 100 beasts essence blood slot increased by 100 points. Ding! 100 beasts essence blood slot increased by 100 points. The 100 beasts essence blood slot finally exceeded 1,000 points. Ding! 100 beasts essence blood slot is full. Host can fuse with the intermediate 100 beasts bloodline. Do you want to fuse with it? Yes. Last time, Yi Xian fused with the 100 beasts bloodline and his body changed a little. But this time there was no change. Intermediate 100 beasts bloodline fusion successful. When such a notification sounded out in Yi Xian's mind, he abruptly squatted down and smashed his fist onto the floor. Boom! 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 As Yi Xian's fist smashed onto the ground, the entire mountain seemed to tremble. The ground instantly cracked, and a circle with a radius of at least 10 meters appeared. Good, such a strong power. Now, even if I don't use a spiritual weapon, I'm afraid I can kill this berserk black bear. Yi Xian was overjoyed. The change after the breakthrough was so great that he couldn't react. Ha ha ha, let me see your speed again. Swoosh! He disappeared in an instant, without a trace. However, at this moment, the Dark Sun Empire's imperial palace was in an uproar. Who is this kid? How could he kill a berserk black bear that is comparable to a middle-stage true spirit realm with just 2 arrows? Too terrifying, too terrifying. Even a middle-stage true spirit realm martial artist wouldn't be able to kill that berserk black bear so easily, unless he used a spiritual level martial skill. Definitely, those 2 arrows must be a spiritual level martial skill. This kid is so powerful, he even has a spiritual level martial skill. Where did he get it? This person didn't hesitate to kill a disciple of the Tian family. His identity must be extraordinary. Who is he? Both inside and outside the imperial palace were in an uproar. Not only that, Tianjun was speechless. On one hand, he was shocked by Yi Xian's strength. On the other hand, it was because his son died in front of him. Tian Chao was his son. No! Tianjun roared. At this moment, he really wanted to kill Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian was in the maze mirror, so he couldn't enter at all. As for Ming, the other inspector who was nearby, he was applauding. Good, Yi Xian did well. Although he was shocked by Yi Xian's strength, the latter had helped him vent his anger. Ming, you're courting death. Tianjun immediately cried out. Ming didn't care at all. He just sat there quietly and said coldly, Tianjun, your son is not as good as others. Do you want to fight in the Imperial Palace? You. Chapter 131. There were 36 secondary mirrors of the maze mirror in the palace. Just now, one of them happened to reflect the scene at Yi Xian's place. Therefore, everyone present saw this scene. Some of the officials present might not know Tian Chao, but after hearing the explanation of others, they looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. They knew about the discord between the two inspectors. Tisk. TSK. TSK. Ming and Tianjun are not on good terms. Now that Tianjun's son is dead, will he fight with Ming directly? I don't think so. This is the palace. No matter how bold Tianjun is, he won't dare to blaspheme the emperor's prestige. Haha, I'm dying of laughter. My son is dead, but I don't even dare to fart. What can he do? Although the emperor didn't notice it, he might be watching in the dark. Besides, there are several great guardians of the imperial family here. If Tianjun dares to make a move, he will definitely die. Even the Tian family can't protect him. Some ministers were whispering to each other. Their voices also fell into Tianjun's ears. At this time, if they were outside the imperial city, he would definitely fight to the death with Ming. Unfortunately, this was the palace. This was the place where civil and military officials held court. Even if he had 100 guts, he wouldn't dare to make a move here. Ming, good, you're very good. Let's wait and see. I hope you won't be a coward. After Tianjun said a few harsh words, he left. Now that he couldn't avenge his son, what was the point of staying here? On the other hand, Ming was in a bad mood when he saw Tianjun's exasperated look. Previously, every time Tianjun saw him, he would mock him coldly. All these years of resentment had been accumulating in his heart. It wouldn't be long before he could take revenge. Ming, that young man was recommended by you? After Tianjun left, there were also some people who came forward. Yes, his name is Yi Xian. He's a genius that I discovered by chance. Ming said respectfully. Although he was an inspector, the officials here were higher than him, and there were many more people who were stronger than him. Not bad, not bad. I like him. Remember to introduce him to me after this competition. Come on, maybe the emperor will take a fancy to her. Sigh, don't say it out loud. Inside the maze mirror. This time, Yi Xian had profited greatly. Not only had he broken through to the true spirit realm, but he had also obtained many devouring points. He had even upgraded his 100 Beasts bloodline and Wind-Seeking Leopard bloodline to the intermediate level. If he were to purchase the 100 Beasts bloodline directly, he would need 5,000 devouring points. Not only that, but he also obtained points from the competition. Yi Xian did a quick count. Those people had a total of about 2 million points. That small berserk black bear had a total of 1 million points. What shocked Yi Xian the most was the large berserk black bear. He had a total of 10 million points in his token. What did 10 million points mean? That was 100 low-grade crystals. If Yi Xian had devoured 100 low-grade crystals, he would have been able to obtain 10,000 devouring points. Unfortunately, the competition was not over yet, so he could not redeem them. He swallowed the points and quickly ran in front of a ranking stone tablet. Sure enough, the first place had already been changed. First place, Yi Xian, 13 million points. Yi Xian did not pay much attention to the small number of points behind him. Haha, I'm first. The imperial capital's 6 geniuses are all trash in front of me. Yi Xian laughed in his heart. He looked down and found that the second place, Jiang Xian, the son of the National Protector General, had also reached 3 million points. Looks like you killed a spiritual beast as well. But can you kill a spiritual beast at the middle stage of the true spirit realm? Yi Xian asked in his heart. For a genius who had reached the true spirit realm in his early 20s, it was not difficult for him to defeat a spiritual beast of the same level. However, it would be difficult for him to defeat a spiritual beast of a higher level. At this moment, Yi Xian desperately wanted to find another middle-stage true spirit realm spiritual beast. What should I do? Duel. Right now, Yi Xian had already broken through to the true spirit level and his points were as high as 10 million, so he directly found a place to rest. He had spent 1,000 devouring points to upgrade the wind-chasing leopard bloodline to the middle stage. Now that he had 4,000 points, he wanted to get some more bloodlines to play with. The 100-flower bloodline is cheaper. I'll spend another 1,000 points to upgrade it to the middle stage. Yi Xian thought to himself in a cave. After upgrading the 100-flower bloodline to the middle stage, not only was he immune to more poisons, but his recovery ability was also stronger. He tested it himself and cut open his wrist. After a while, the blood coagulated and the wound began to heal. In the end, there was not even a scar left. It's really a powerful bloodline. If I upgrade it to the middle stage, I won't need to use healing pills in the future. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly turned his attention to other bloodlines. If the treasure-hunting deer bloodline is upgraded to the middle stage, it can expand its sensing range and collect heaven and earth treasures. Upgrading the swordsman bloodline to the middle stage swordsman bloodline requires 5,000 devouring points. I don't have enough points now, so I can only upgrade the archer bloodline temporarily to find other contestants. Thinking of this, Yi Xian decided to upgrade the archer bloodline first. However, this bloodline was really expensive. He spent 3,000 devouring points in one go. After that, he became a pauper again, with only a dozen devouring points left. Ding! The archer bloodline fusion is successful. When the system notification sounded, Yi Xian could not help but look over. After the upgrade of the archer bloodline, his vision increased tremendously. It was like a celestial telescope. Found it! Yi Xian's eyes suddenly lit up and shot out. Using his supervision, he immediately found a moving figure. Middle stage 100 beasts bloodline, middle stage wind-chasing leopard bloodline, spiritual level green lotus steps, and early stage true spirit realm. These factors made Yi Xian's speed surpass everyone in the maze mirror. Then, he directly stopped the warrior who was moving at high speed. However, when he saw the warrior's face, he was slightly surprised. It was another familiar face. The warrior in front of him was the son of the second-rank prince of the southern forest, Deng Yang, who came to participate in the imperial capital tournament with him. However, Yi Xian couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on him. Right now, a minute of his time was precious, so he directly said, "Deng Yang, I'll give you 5 seconds to consider. Hand over the token and all the treasures." Deng Yang did not know how Yi Xian appeared in front of him. Previously, he was indeed a little afraid of Yi Xian, but now he was no longer afraid. You. Chapter 132. Because of me. Yi Xian smiled faintly. You really don't know your place. How dare a country bumpkin talk to me like that? Deng Yang said coldly. This was the first time he had spoken to Yi Xian in the past 2 months because he looked down on Yi Xian. However, since Yi Xian had come knocking on his door today, he didn't mind teaching Yi Xian a lesson. At this moment, he was thinking that if Yi Xian didn't know how to appreciate his kindness, then he would kill Yi Xian. TCH, you're just the son of the Duke. What's there to be arrogant about? 5 seconds have passed. Are you going to hand it over or not? Yi Xian continued. Go to hell. Deng Yang was enraged. He pulled out his spiritual artifact sword and stabbed at Yi Xian. Clang. However, his attack didn't hit Yi Xian. Instead, it hit a lotus flower. This lotus flower enveloped Yi Xian's entire body. A defensive martial art? Deng Yang was shocked. This type of martial art was very rare. However, in the next moment, he was completely shocked. No, this isn't spiritual energy. This is true spirit. Impossible, how can it be true spirit? He exclaimed. He grew up beside a true spirit realm expert, so he was very familiar with true spirits. The pressure he felt at this moment was almost exactly the same as the pressure his father released. Yi Xian had indeed exceeded the range of spiritual energy. That's right. It's true spirit. Now, you should hand it over, right? Yi Xian didn't move. He just looked at Deng Yang quietly. Impossible, this is impossible. The competition just started and you broke through from mid-stage 10th realm to true spirit realm. Deng Yang couldn't believe it. However, just as he finished speaking, he suddenly remembered that when he first met Yi Xian, he was only at the peak of 9th realm. To break through from the peak of 9th realm to true spirit realm in 2 months was definitely unprecedented. You can break through but I can't? Cut the crap. My time is precious. Are you going to give it to me or not? Yi Xian glared at him. You dare touch me? My father is. Before Deng Yang could finish his sentence, he was sent flying. Do you think I'll be worse than your father after the competition? Yi Xian's ice-cold voice entered Deng Yang's ears, causing him to tremble. A 16-year-old true spirit realm martial artist. Only the true energy realm martial artist from 8 years ago could compare to him. His father, on the other hand, was merely a lowly royal prince. When he saw Yi Xian after the competition, he would most likely have to greet him respectfully. Even if Yi Xian killed him now, his father would not be able to avenge him. Deng Yang was also a smart person. He immediately made a decision and threw the token over, as well as the treasures he had taken. And your spiritual treasure sword. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. This guy actually wanted to leave out this weapon. He was really courting death. Deng Yang gritted his teeth and threw the treasured sword in his hand over. Now, he had nothing on him. You're smart. Yi Xian snorted coldly and swallowed these items in front of Deng Yang. Interspatial ring? Deng Yang was shocked again. It seemed that Yi Xian was not as simple as a disciple of the Shattering Cloud sect. Could it be that he was a disciple of a big family in the Imperial City and had gone to the Shattering Cloud sect to experience life under an alias? Goodbye. While he was thinking, Yi Xian had already disappeared. He's the son of a royal prince. He only has 200,000 points. Yi Xian thought to himself as he ran. However, 200,000 points could be exchanged for 2 lower-grade crystals after the competition. This was not bad. In the following time, Yi Xian wandered around and his points soared rapidly. However, his actions also caused an enormous commotion. Regardless of whether it was outside the bewildering mirror or inside the bewildering mirror. As time passed, the number of contestants in the maze void mirror continued to decrease. On the 7th day, there were only 1,000 contestants left. In these 7 days, the rankings had undergone a huge change. However, no one could shake the first place. First place, Yi Xian, 53 million points. Second place, Jiang Xian, 14 million points. Third place, Li Xiaotian, 12 million points. Fourth place, Zhao Pan, 11 million points. 10th place, Tian Ming, 9,600,000 points. Yi Xian's points were almost half of the total points of the previous 19 contestants. Not only that, but the contestants' realms had also increased significantly in these 7 days. In addition to the previous 6 geniuses, there were also a few new true spirit realm experts. Among them were Tian Ming and Zhao Pan. Now, Yi Xian could confirm that Zhao Pan, who was 4th on the rankings, was the Zhao Pan he knew. This was because he had met someone who had been robbed by Zhao Pan. According to that person's description, Zhao Pan was an extremely fat person. Therefore, Yi Xian could confirm that the 2 Zhao Pans were the same person. In other words, this Zhao Pan had also broken through to the true spirit realm. At this time, on a mountain peak, a young man was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out. This young man was Yi Xian. Now that the number of contestants in the maze mirror had decreased to less than 1,000, and most of the treasures had been harvested, his speed had unknowingly slowed down. There's a small group battle over there. Is it the Tian family? At this time, Yi Xian's eyes suddenly lit up. He noticed several people, and they were all wearing the same clothes. They were the imperial capital's Tian family disciples. He saw that 6 Tian family disciples were circling around a large python, while on the other side, there was another person fighting with another large python. Tian Ming. Yi Xian recognized the person fighting the other giant python at a glance. It was the Tian family's #1 genius, Tian Ming. Not only that, he had also seen one of the 6 people before. It was Tian Xiong's twin brother, Tian Ying. Since we've gathered together, I'll kill you all at once. Yi Xian's eyes flashed, and he directly jumped off the cliff. One must know that this cliff was more than 50 meters high. However, when he landed on the ground, he landed on both feet. This was the hiding effect of the wind-chasing leopard after reaching the intermediate level. Even if he jumped from a high place, he would not be injured, as long as he was not more than 100 meters away. After landing on the ground, he quickly dashed in a certain direction. He estimated that he should be about 2 kilometers away from the Tian family. At the same time, 2 kilometers away. Everyone, work harder. We just need to wait for Tian Ming to finish off the fire python, a tall young man shouted. He was Tian Ing. The one in front of them was a huge white python. When it opened its big mouth, it could definitely swallow a strong man. However, the other 5 were all in the middle stage of the 10th realm of martial path, so they were having a hard time. However, right at that moment, a figure suddenly flashed out. Chapter 133. When a Tian family warrior saw him, he hurriedly shouted, "Brother, come and help. If you can kill this spirit beast, I'll give you some points." Help. When he heard this, Yi Xian smiled. It was already good enough that he didn't make a move to cause trouble, but now he wanted to help? Tianning also noticed Yi Xian, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he took advantage of the time when the python was attacking the others to slash at Yi Xian. The slash tore through the air and was extremely fast. An ordinary person wouldn't have been able to react in time. However, Tianning was still a martial artist and used spiritual power. His attack couldn't break through Yi Xian's lotus armor at all. Pang! The sharp slash hit the lotus armor and was instantly dispersed by the true spirit. What? Tianning was shocked. His attack could break through the python's scales, but it couldn't break through Yi Xian's defense? Good fellow, I didn't even say a word and you want to kill me. I wanted to watch a good show, but since you want to die, then go ahead. Yi Xian suddenly summoned the water splitter sword and instantly appeared in front of Tianning. Then he stabbed with his sword. Myriad Flower Sword. 2nd level. This sword split into 36 blades. Tianning only saw the white light flash a few times in front of her before she fell backwards. His body had been turned into a sieve. His heart and brain had been pierced by several blades, and even his neck had been cut open. Blood splattered everywhere. A martial artist at the peak of the 10th realm was killed in one strike. When this scene fell into the eyes of the other 5, they had already forgotten to attack. The 5 of you die too. Yi Xian suddenly stabbed out a few times, and over 100 sharp lights shot towards the 5 martial artists at the middle of the 10th level of the martial Dao. At this speed, even Tianning couldn't dodge, let alone the others. Plop! Plop! The 5 of them fell one after another, dying on the spot. At this moment, only Yi Xian and the white python were left in the vicinity. The moment Yi Xian killed the 5 people, the white python opened its mouth wide and bit at Yi Xian. Lotus Armor. Yi Xian did not dodge. Instead, he activated his true spirit to form a giant lotus flower that enveloped his entire body. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Enter. The white python's mouth was blocked by the lotus formed by the true spirit, so it couldn't hurt Yi Xian. Helpless, it could only twist its body and use its tail to whip Yi Xian to death. Clang! The lotus armor blocked the attack once again. As expected of a spirit-level martial art. Combined with the true spirit, its defense is so strong that it's off the charts. Yi Xian thought to himself. Now that he had some understanding of his own defense, it was time to kill this giant python. Hit the snake where it hurts. Yi Xian calculated for a moment, then dashed to the side and took out his golden eagle bow. Sharpshooter. Whoosh. The spirit arrow pierced through the white python's scales and pierced through its 3-meter-thick body. The snake's heart was at its 7 inches. If the heart was torn apart by the spiritual arrow, even a god would die. Plop! The white python's proud head fell to the ground. A spiritual beast was killed in seconds. If someone was present, they would be so shocked that they would stuff an egg into their mouth. At this moment, the battle in the distance stopped. Oh, Tianming's battle is also over? Yi Xian murmured. He didn't know if Tianming killed the red python or vice versa. But in the next moment, Yi Xian knew that Tianming won because he heard footsteps. Soon, a figure came into Yi Xian's sight. It was the #1 genius of the Tian family, Tianming. It is said that Tianming has also broken through to the true spirit realm. What a pity! Yi Xian shook his head in his heart. Tianming was a member of the Tian family. Since he met Tianming could only die. Tianming's body was dirty. Obviously, he had a great battle. After he appeared, he saw the corpses on the ground and was shocked. When he saw Yi Xian's face, he was even more shocked. "It's you!" Tianming exclaimed. How could he not know Yi Xian? "It's me." Yi Xian smiled slightly. "It's you? You killed them?" Tianming looked at the corpses on the ground in surprise. Yi Xian nodded directly. "Yes, I killed all 6 of them, including this ice python." When he finished speaking, he saw that Yi Xian had turned around. Tianming's eyes were filled with fear. Since Yi Xian could kill a spiritual beast, it proved that Yi Xian's strength was enough to threaten him. "You dare to kill a member of the Tian family. You are quite bold." Tianming walked out slowly. He found that the dead ice python was not seriously injured. It should have been caused by Tianming and the others. But when he saw the bloody hole at the ice python's 7 inches, he was shocked. He killed a spiritual beast with strong defense in 1 second? What he just dealt with was a fire python. The fire python and the ice python were twin spiritual beasts. They were born together. However, between the ice python and the fire python, the former's defense was stronger than the latter's, and the latter's attack was stronger than the former's. But Yi Xian could kill the ice python in 1 second. Even Tianming could only look up to him. Not long after the competition started, "I killed Tian Xiong from your Tian family. Oh, and that one called Tian Chao. Since we have already formed a grudge, what's the harm in killing a few more?" Yi Xian said slowly. "Tian Xiong, Tian Chao?" Tianming murmured in his heart. It didn't matter if Tian Xiong died, but Tian Chao was Tianzhen's son. Yi Xian was really bold. "Who the hell are you?" Tianming shouted. Hearing this question, Yi Xian grinned and said, "I think you've seen my name before. Remember, I'm Yi Xian. I'm the one who will kill you." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out, leaving behind an afterimage. He was so fast that even Tianming could not react. So fast! Just as Tianming exclaimed in his heart, Yi Xian had already arrived in front of him. In an instant, dozens of sharp lights flashed, and his neck was instantly cut open. Blood gushed out from his heart like a fountain. He could not believe that he was killed by a person in the early stage of the true spirit realm. Only then did he realize that Yi Xian was the one who ranked first on the leaderboard. Looking at Tianming's corpse, Yi Xian stood quietly for a while. From now on, there was one less true spirit realm expert in the maze mirror. Immediately, he began to count the spoils of war. Tianming and Tianming were both geniuses of the Tian family, so they both had a spiritual weapon. As a result, Yi Xian had a considerable amount of spiritual energy. However, this was just the tip of the iceberg. What made Yi Xian ecstatic was their competition points. Tianming originally had more than 9 million points. Tianming had 2 million points, and the rest added up to about 1 million points. This time, Yi Xian's points skyrocketed by more than 10 million points. But this was not the end, because there were still 2 spirit beast corpses that had not been devoured. End of chapter. Chapter 134. Ding! The host has devoured a spirit beast's corpse. 100 devouring points have been awarded. Ding! The host has devoured a spirit beast's inner core. 500 devouring points have been awarded. 1 spirit beast's corpse was worth 600 devouring points. 2 of them would be 1,200 devouring points. Adding the gains from the past few days, Yi Xian's devouring points had reached 5,000. The Imperial Capital competition was not in vain. He immediately upgraded his swordsman bloodline to an intermediate swordsman bloodline and spent 5,000 devouring points. The swordsman bloodline fusion is successful. The host has comprehended the 3rd level of the myriad flower sword technique. What? The swordsman bloodline does not have a spiritual level martial skill? Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. However, the swordsman bloodline was not bad. After the fusion, he directly comprehended the 3rd level of the myriad flower sword technique. Now, the myriad flower sword could directly divide into 72 blades to attack the enemy. Even an expert at the intermediate true spirit realm might not be able to withstand it. Adding in various factors, Yi Xian was confident to fight with a martial artist at the peak of the true spirit realm. Unfortunately, There was no such thing in the maze mirror. However, what Yi Xian did not know was that his actions were all reflected in a secondary mirror. Everyone in the Imperial Palace and outside the Imperial City saw it clearly. At the same time, in the Imperial Palace of the Mystic Sun Empire. This kid is too strong. In just 7 days, he obtained more than 60 million devouring points. He even killed Tianming, who broke through to the true spirit realm. Is he still human? Genius. He is a super genius. He can even be compared with that lord. That's right. A 16-year-old in the true spirit realm. Give him 12 years and he will definitely break through to the true energy realm. After the competition, I will take him as my adopted son. Are you kidding? The emperor did not say anything. How dare you? All of a sudden, all of the officials turned to look at Yongming. At this moment, Yongming could no longer conceal his emotions, and he burst out laughing. On the other side, Tianjun was lifeless and his face was ashen. No one dared to approach him. Now that the 3 elites of the Tian family had died at the hands of Yi Xian, the Tian family probably wouldn't be able to achieve much in the next few years. Damn it to think that I nurtured him so much. I didn't expect him to be such a piece of trash and be instantly killed by that brat. Tianjun cursed in his heart. Just as everyone was shocked by the origin of the first place on the scoreboard, a voice suddenly rang out in the sky above the perplexing mirror. The number of participants has dropped to 1,000. Everyone, please arrive at the Purple Pillar of Light within 3 days. The second stage of the Imperial Capital Tournament will begin soon. This voice entered everyone's ears. Not only did the people in the maze mirror hear it, even the people outside the Imperial City and inside the Imperial Palace heard it. The first stage of the competition had ended? What's going on? Isn't the first stage supposed to last for a month? It's only been 10 days. This should be the Emperor's idea. Could it be that the Imperial family is afraid that too many geniuses will die? It's possible, but there will definitely be a lot of people gathering at the Light Pillar. This will definitely cause a lot of chaos. Everyone was puzzled. Even Yi Xian was puzzled. However, before he left the Light Pillar, he could still loot it. Since he had to go to the Light Pillar, he would wait at the Light Pillar and enter at the end. He directly leaped onto a tree and looked around. As expected, he saw the so-called purple light pillar on the horizon. However, there wasn't just one light pillar. He could see 3 of them right now. It seems like I can only choose one place to wait, Yi Xian thought to himself as he walked toward one of the purple light pillars. With his speed, he would be able to reach the nearest purple light pillar in less than half an hour. However, when he got closer, he realized that there was a maze mirror under the light pillar. Next to the maze mirror stood a purple-clothed person. It was the same person who stood on the city wall before the competition. The purple-clothed person also noticed Yi Xian and said, "You can choose to leave or continue to stay in the maze mirror." "I won't leave first," Yi Xian said as he hid in a tree. With the help of the shadow leopard bloodline, he hid and waited for someone to come. The purple-clothed middle-aged man looked at Yi Xian in shock. If he didn't look carefully, he would have a hard time discovering Yi Xian. As expected of the first place on the rankings. "You have some tricks up your sleeve," the purple-clothed person sighed. "Sir, I would like to hide for a while. Please don't talk to me first." A faint voice came from the side. The purple-clothed person smiled bitterly and stood there quietly. Not long after, other people finally arrived. However, this time there were 2 of them. The 2 of them were quite strong. They were both at the peak of the 10th realm of the martial path. Moreover, they coveted each other's points, so they fought. In the end, one of them was killed, and the other obtained all the points. However, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Just as he was about to leave, Yi Xian suddenly jumped out and kicked him away, stealing all the points. For the next 2 days, Yi Xian did the same. He directly robbed dozens of cultivators. His points soared to 70 million. However, on the 3rd day, when the time was almost up, a fat figure suddenly entered Yi Xian's sight. Yi Xian felt that the figure was familiar. It turned out to be Zhao Pan, whom he had met once before. After seeing Zhao Pan, Yi Xian directly jumped down. When Zhao Pan heard the footsteps, he also looked over. When he saw that the person was Yi Xian, he immediately smiled and said, "Hey, Brother Yi, it's you." Brother Fatty is really good at timing. Yi Xian walked over with a smile. Although he had only met Zhao Pan once, and this was the second time, the latter gave him a good impression. After all, he had mentioned some things. However, Yi Xian was also hesitating because Zhao Pan had a lot of points. He was wondering if he should rob Zhao Pan. Haha, it seems that Brother Yi is waiting here. Could it be that Brother Yi wants to rob me too? Zhao Pan's face twitched. Forget it. Yi Xian shook his head. He originally had this idea, but after seeing the serious expression on the purple-robed man's face, he immediately gave up. The purple-robed man's nerves were already tense. Although he was standing there like a statue, Yi Xian could feel that he could make a move at any time. The purple-robed man was most likely worried that Yi Xian would make a move on Zhao Pan. It seems that Zhao Pan's identity is not ordinary. Thinking of this, Yi Xian decided to forget it and walked over. Seeing Yi Xian slowly walking towards him, Zhao Pan asked with a smile, "Brother Fatty, I didn't see when I came over. May I know how many points Brother Yi has?" 71 million. Yi Xian answered honestly. End of chapter. Chapter 135. You're truly amazing. In just 10 short days, you managed to reach the true spirit realm from mid-stage 10th realm. My points aren't even half of yours. Zhao Pan said helplessly. Fatty bro, you're not bad either. There are many people stuck at the peak of the 10th realm, Yi Xian said with a smile. Haha, let's go. Today is the last day. I'm afraid there aren't many people left in the perplexing mirror. Zhao Pan said as he led the way. Yi Xian followed behind him. After passing through the perplexing mirror, Yi Xian returned to the imperial city. Following that, someone came to lead him and Zhao Pan away and arranged for them to stay in the imperial palace. The second stage of the competition is in 3 days. I can't even leave these 3 days. What a scam. Yi Xian said helplessly in his own courtyard. By now, almost everyone had left the perplexing mirror and been given a place to stay. Furthermore, all of them were very protective of their identity medallions because they were filled with money. Outside the courtyard, experts were constantly patrolling. There were even a few participants who gave up. After all, some of them didn't have the confidence to enter the top 100. They might as well give up and find a good position. However, just as Yi Xian settled down, someone came to visit him. He found it strange because the officials weren't allowed to see the participants before the competition ended. When he opened the door, he saw that the person standing outside was none other than Zhao Pan. Why are you here? Aren't participants not allowed to see each other? Yi Xian said in surprise. Hee hee, I'm an exception. Zhao Pan laughed and squeezed in. Now, Yi Xian was certain that Zhao Pan was related to the imperial palace. He might even be the son of one of the imperial palace's consecrators. Fatty bro, why are you looking for me? Yi Xian didn't think too much and asked directly. After Zhao Pan entered, he sat down on the stone chair and said, I'm here to tell you something. What? Yi Xian didn't react in time. This. Zhao Pan hesitated for a moment before slowly saying, I told you before that there was a true energy realm expert called Yi Chong who won first place in the competition 8 years ago. Do you remember? Hearing this, Yi Xian couldn't help but narrow his eyes and said, I remember. He had been wondering if this Yi Chong was his father. It was his father. However, when Zhao Pan asked this question, he was also a bit surprised. Could it be that Yi Chong was really his father? What if I told you that this Yi Chong came from Lianyun City in Nanlin County? Zhao Pan suddenly said with a smile that was not a smile. Boom. This news. Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Was this 28-year-old true element boundary cultivator really his father? Fatty bro, how do you know? Yi Xian asked in surprise. Hee hee. Let me reintroduce myself. Zhao Pan suddenly stood up. I am Zhao Pan, Profound Sun Empire's crown prince. As expected. After hearing this, Yi Xian muttered in his heart. This Zhao Pan really wasn't an ordinary person. Wait a minute. Crown Prince. Yi Xian suddenly exclaimed. That's right, Crown Prince. In other words, Yi Chong is my master. Ayaya, when I saw you back then, I immediately recognized you. You're practically carved from the same mold as master. Zhao Pan suddenly shook his muscles and giggled. Yi Xian was helpless. It was one thing for the Crown Prince to participate in the competition, but why was he such a fat Crown Prince? This wasn't right. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Don't worry, sit down and let's talk. Zhao Pan gestured for Yi Xian to sit down. Yi Xian didn't dare. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Your Highness." "AI, don't be so polite. Your father is my master. We're family. I'm 2 years older than you, so you can call me Brother Fatty. It's more intimate." Zhao Pan continued to smile. After his reminder, Yi Xian felt that it made sense. If his father was really the crown prince's master, then his identity was extraordinary. Yi Xian didn't argue and sat down. However, after sitting down, he didn't know what to ask. 8 years ago, your father participated in the Imperial Capital competition and won first place with the strength of the true energy boundary. After that, my father asked him to teach me. However, after teaching me for a while, he left directly. However, before he left, he entrusted a few things to me. In fact, he couldn't let go of his family, so my father sent an expert to protect the Yi family. When the Shattering Cloud Sect's elder suddenly attacked the Yi family, he was killed by my imperial family's consecrated. There was also a group of guards from the city. Zhao Pan slowly finished. Now, Yi Xian suddenly understood. So that expert was actually a consecrated of the imperial family. No wonder no one could discover him. He was probably at least a true spirit realm cultivator. Then where did my father go? Yi Xian continued to ask. I really don't know. Even my father doesn't know. However, he left a letter for you. However, he requested for us to see you. In other words, you have to appear in the imperial capital before we can hand this letter to you. As Zhao Pan spoke, he suddenly produced a letter from his cosmos ring. Yi Xian gently opened the letter. The handwriting on the letter was vigorous and vigorous. It could be described as a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing, but Yi Xian could still understand it. Xianer, if you see this letter, it means that you've come to the imperial capital and come into contact with the imperial family. When you see this letter, I don't know how many years I've been away from the family. You must want to ask, where did I go? I can tell you that I actually went to look for your mother. When you were young, I told you that your mother had passed away, but that was a lie. Your mother is still alive, but she's very far away from us. But I won't tell you where I went, unless you can grow to a certain level. Perhaps you're still at the 10th level of the martial path, or perhaps you've broken through to the true spirit realm. If you've broken through to the true spirit realm, then condense your true spirit in front of your eyes and read this letter. After reading this letter, Yi Xian immediately circulated his true spirit energy and condensed it in front of his eyes. After that, he was shocked to find out that there were other words on the letter. A second letter. How is this possible? These words are written with true spirit energy. No, this isn't true spirit energy. If it was true spirit energy, how could I not sense it? I have the bloodline of the treasure-hunting deer. Yi Xian was shocked, but he didn't think too much about it. He just continued reading. If you can read this letter, it means you've broken through to the true spirit realm. But, let me tell you, the path of cultivation is very long, and the true spirit realm is just the beginning. There's still the true origin realm, true profound realm, and the divine core realm. But, even if you've broken through to the divine core realm, I'm afraid you still won't be able to see me. Because when I wrote this letter, I had already surpassed the divine core realm, and reached a realm that you can't even imagine. If you want to find me, then keep becoming stronger. After that, leave the profound Sun Empire and go to the Soaring Heaven Mansion to find someone called Lin Wanyue. End of chapter. Chapter 136. When Yi Xian finished reading, he felt his qi and blood boiling. His father was so incredible. He had never even heard of a divine core warrior, but his father had already surpassed the divine core realm. This didn't make sense. Yi Xian, what did master say? Zhao Pan asked curiously. Yi Xian replied, Father went to look for my mother, I don't know where she is. But, he asked me to go to Soaring Firmament Mansion and find someone. Fatty bro, do you know where Soaring Firmament Mansion is? Soaring Firmament Mansion? Hearing this name, Zhao Pan's fat face trembled. He cried out in surprise. Master asked you to go to Soaring Firmament Mansion? That's right, I think it's outside of the profound Sun Empire. Where is it? Yi Xian asked curiously. Soaring Firmament Mansion is not a name, it's a power, a power that is countless times stronger than the profound Sun Empire. Zhao Pan explained. Countless times? Isn't that a bit too much? Yi Xian raised his brows. Zhao Pan shook his head and said, It's not an exaggeration. We are currently in the eastern region, and there are hundreds of empires in the eastern region. They are further divided into low rank, mid rank, high rank, and dynasty. If I remember correctly, our profound Sun Empire is just a low-rank empire. Yi Xian said. Zhao Pan nodded his head. That's right, there are only 4 great dynasties in the eastern region, and each of them is extremely powerful. This soaring firmament mansion is a power that is even more powerful than the 4 great dynasties. Even if the 4 great dynasties join forces, I don't think they can defeat this soaring firmament mansion. So strong? Yi Xian was shocked as well. He was currently in a low-rank empire, and there were mid-rank, high-rank and dynasty that were stronger than this. But his father asked him to go to Soaring Firmament Mansion to find someone. This was ridiculous. His talent was definitely the best in the Profound Sun Empire, but in the mid-rank and high-rank empires, he was nothing, let alone the Soaring Firmament Mansion, which was even stronger than a dynasty. Of course it's strong. Zhao Pan said with a shocked expression, This Soaring Firmament Mansion is the overlord of the eastern region. Have you heard of the Heavenly Yuan sect? A name suddenly appeared in Yi Xian's mind. Heavenly Yuan sect? That's the southern region's overlord sect, on the same level as the Soaring Heaven Mansion. Zhao Pan was shocked. Don't tell me Master wants you to go back to the Heavenly Origin sect. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. No, I just happened to hear it. Although that was what he said, Yi Xian was shocked. Lin Shuer from Lianyun City's Lin family had caught the eye of an elder from the Sky Yuan sect and was accepted as a disciple. At that time, Yi Xian did not think much of it. Now, he understood that the Sky Yuan sect was so powerful. It was a power that was above the dynasty. Mother****. I knew I was too low. It was only 3 times the betrothal gift. Even if it was 30 times, 300 times, or even 3,000 times, it wouldn't be a problem. I'm going to lose so much. Yi Xian wanted to cry, but no tears came out. If there were 3,000 times, he would have broken through to the true spirit realm, or even the true element realm. However, he also understood that Lin Shuer's aptitude was probably too good. Her master probably just happened to pass by and didn't want to break the rules of this world, so he didn't take out too many things. Otherwise, it might attract the attention of other people, such as the enemy. Any one of those experts would be able to destroy the Profound Sun Empire, so it was better to keep a low profile. Lin Shuer left with her master a long time ago. Now, her realm should be higher than mine. I thought my speed was enough, but I didn't expect that I was just a frog in a well. Yi Xian felt helpless. After 2 seconds of silence he asked, Fatty bro, the Soaring Heaven Mansion is so strong. Their requirements must be very high, right? It is indeed very high. Originally, they only accepted people from the 4 great dynasties, but this year, we just received news that from this year onwards, the Soaring Heaven Mansion will also accept people from the Empire. However, the minimum requirement is the true spirit realm. Zhao Pan nodded. That means I still have a chance. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. With his strength he should be able to go. Zhao Pan looked at him and said, Although the rewards of the Imperial Capital Tournament are generous, it is not at the level of 1 point and 10 taels of gold. Do you know why this year? After hearing this, Yi Xian was stunned. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind. Could it be, it's because of the Soaring Heaven Mansion? That's right, it's because of the Soaring Heaven Mansion. Therefore, as long as you can get into the top 3, you might be qualified to participate in the Soaring Heaven Mansion's assessment. Zhao Pan nodded. Maybe. There are other factors? Yi Xian found the key point immediately. Zhao Pan nodded helplessly. Yes, there are only 3 spots, so my Profound Sun Empire has to compete with the Raging Inferno Empire. Raging Inferno Empire. Empire, it's just a low-level empire, no big deal. Yi Xian said in his heart. But now, his path of growth was very clear. Get first place in the Imperial Capital Tournament, then compete for a spot to participate in the Soaring Heaven Mansion's assessment. All right, my Imperial father has a high opinion of you. I think it won't be a problem for you to get first place. I have to go back and cultivate as well. I want to get a slot as well. Zhao Pan said and left immediately. As for Yi Xian, he sat there, quietly thinking. Very quickly, 3 days passed. When the 4th day arrived, Yi Xian was also brought to the imperial city. He looked around and found that there weren't many people, only about 500. It seemed that many people had left in these 3 days. However, no one present knew Yi Xian. Yi Xian was like an ordinary person, blending in with the crowd. Yi Xian. At this time, a meatball suddenly rolled over. It was Zhao Pan, who weighed 316 kilograms. It was hard to imagine that such a meatball was the crown prince of the profound Sun Empire. However, Zhao Pan's shout immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Yi Xian. Wasn't this the freak who was first place on the rankings? 71 million points. More than twice the points of the second place. If it was changed to low-grade crystal stones, it would be 710 low-grade crystal stones. This was enough to establish a family stronger than the Tian family. Yi Xian felt very helpless because he wanted to keep a low profile. He didn't expect Zhao Pan to expose him so quickly. When Zhao Pan came closer, Yi Xian asked softly, "Fatty bro, do you know what the second stage of the Imperial Capital Tournament is?" Zhao Pan shook his head and replied softly, "I'm not very sure. It's all set by my imperial father. Don't think that I'm the crown prince. I have to fight for my own cultivation resources. If I don't reach my goal, my imperial father won't give me anything." All right. Yi Xian rolled his eyes. He thought that being the crown prince of an empire was very impressive. He didn't expect that it wasn't an unlimited supply of cultivation resources. However, Zhao Pan was only 18 years old and he had already broken through to the true spirit realm. His aptitude was quite good. End of chapter. Chapter 137. Soon, the purple-robed middle-aged man appeared on top of the imperial palace. Everyone, the second stage of the competition will begin next. The second stage will be held inside the maze mirror. As the purple-clothed man spoke, he waved his hand, and the enormous bewildering void mirror descended once again. Enter this way, but be careful not to make a move. Wait for my orders. The purple-robed man added. The participants began to enter the maze mirror one after another. He's my father's trusted aide, Yu Shan. He's the commander of the Imperial Guards, a true energy realm expert. Zhao Pan introduced in a low voice. Yi Xian shuddered. Fortunately, he didn't make a move on Zhao Pan yesterday. Otherwise, he would have been beaten up by Commander Yu. However, that would have exposed Zhao Pan's identity as the crown prince. Soon, it was Yi Xian and Zhao Pan's turn. At this moment, everyone recognized Yi Xian and Zhao Pan, and they quickly distanced themselves from them. The remaining participants could only hope that they wouldn't encounter these two freaks in the second stage. After a while, everyone entered the maze mirror. At this moment, Yi Xian and Zhao Pan arrived in front of a golden palace. This golden palace was as dazzling as a mountain. This maze mirror is really mysterious. I stayed inside for more than 10 days, but I didn't see this golden palace at all. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. I didn't expect it to be here. When Zhao Pan saw the golden palace, he said in astonishment. Do you know where this is? Yi Xian asked. Of course I do. Zhao Pan nodded. This Roland's Golden Palace is a palace built from gold. Is it really made of gold and not painted gold? Yi Xian was astonished. Of course. Right at this moment, the purple-robed Yushan suddenly jumped up the stairs of the Golden Palace and said, "The second stage of the competition will be held in this Golden Palace." Everyone quieted down and began to listen attentively. This Golden Palace was built by a supreme expert. This senior came from a dynasty and was extremely powerful. At the same time, he was also the previous owner of the Maze Mirror. However, this senior lived in seclusion in our profound Sun Empire for 10,000 years. After he passed away, the imperial family coincidentally obtained the Maze Mirror and discovered this Golden Palace. This Golden Palace was also built by this senior. Although we've already finished exploring it, there are still many treasures and items left behind by our imperial family. However, there are dangers in this Golden Palace as well. For example, the enemy spies captured by our profound Sun Empire. These spies are powerful experts of the martial realm at least, and there are even some true spirit realm experts. What you all need to do is to enter the Golden Palace and find the exit within a month. If you do not find the exit within a month, you will be eliminated. Only those who find the exit and are ranked in the top 100 can exchange their points for gold or crystal stones. The purple-robed commander explained clearly, and everyone present understood. If one wanted to exchange their points, they had to fulfill 2 conditions. First, they had to come out of the Golden Palace. Second, they had to be in the top 100. In addition, your points will be locked at the end of the first stage. For this stage, the points will be calculated according to your level. At the same time, this stage will be closed and no one outside will be able to see it. As the purple-robed commander spoke, his gaze suddenly landed on a large stone tablet outside the Golden Palace. It was the ranking stone tablet. However, there were many changes to the ranking. Even the first place had changed. First place, Jiang Xian, 10 million points. Second place, Yi Xian, 1 million points. Third place, Zhao Pan, 1 million points. Everyone was shocked when they saw the ranking. Wasn't the first place Yi Xian? However, when they saw the initial points behind the first place, they were all stunned. Even Yi Xian and Zhao Pan were the same. 10 million points. Didn't this mean that this person called Jiang Xian had broken through to the middle true spirit realm? Wah! The crowd was in an uproar. This Jiang Xian is really strong. He was in the early true spirit realm when he participated in the competition. In just half a month, he broke through to the middle true spirit realm. It seems like he had a fortuitous encounter in the maze mirror. Zhao Pan couldn't help but comment. Yi Xian had to admit that this Jiang Xian had a good aptitude. He remembered that this Jiang Xian was only 22 years old. Alright, now go in one by one. One person will enter every minute, but no one is allowed to stay at the entrance. Jiang Xian. The purple-robed Yushan shouted. Then, a young man walked out from the crowd and quickly entered the palace. There were many treasures in the Golden Palace. The first person to enter would have a higher chance of obtaining a treasure. Jiang Xian, who had broken through to the middle true spirit realm, directly entered the Golden Palace. However, other than Yushan, no one knew where he went. 1 minute later. Yi Xian. Yushan shouted. Fatty bro, I'll go first. Yi Xian whispered as he ran all the way into the Golden Palace. After entering the Golden Palace, he realized that there were 4 paths leading to the entrance. Forget it. I'll take the first one. Yi Xian chose the first path and rushed in. After the first round, there would be people who would record the rankings and send it to each person's residence. Yi Xian also received it. He vaguely remembered that Jiang Xian was in third place and obtained 28 million points. He, on the other hand, had 71 million points. After deducting the initial points, Jiang Xian was still behind him by 34 million points. So what if he's in the middle true spirit realm? Do you think he can surpass me? Yi Xian didn't care at all. The first place of the second round was useless. The final result would be the points from the first round. After thinking for a while, Yi Xian quickly rushed out. The first path of the Golden Palace didn't have any forks. Yi Xian ran for 2 minutes before he saw a crossroad. He had 2 choices now. First, he could wait here and rob the others. Second, he could choose a random path to enter. Forget it, it's not easy for others. Who knows, there might be a lot of treasures inside. Yi Xian didn't want to be too ruthless. If he waited here, he would rob everyone who came in. He casually found another path and finally found a tightly shut door. Let me see what's inside. The door was airtight and spirit energy couldn't flow outside. Therefore, even if Yi Xian had the bloodline of the treasure-hunting deer, he couldn't do anything. The door was 5 meters tall and looked heavy. However, Yi Xian had the bloodline of the 100 beasts, so it wasn't a problem for him. End of chapter. Chapter 138. However, Yi Xian still underestimated this Golden Palace. He pushed it with all his might, but it didn't budge at all. This weight is probably several tens of thousands of kilograms. But if you want to stop me with this, then don't even think about it. Yi Xian suddenly gathered his spiritual energy and blasted a palm strike at the door. This time, he used a 7th grade martial art from the Shattering Cloud sect and successfully blasted the door open. Bang! The door slammed into the wall, and the entire Golden Palace reverberated with this loud sound. Yi Xian walked in. The small palace was so empty that it was almost the size of a football field. And in the corner of the small palace, there was a treasure chest. A treasure! Yi Xian wanted to go over, but he suddenly stopped in his tracks. This small palace was a little strange. Now that he was in the true spirit realm, his perception was extremely strong. He noticed that the floor of this palace was a little strange, so he directly took out a small stone from the devouring space and threw it in. As expected, when this small stone fell to the floor, there was a sudden burst of energy that shook the small stone to the ceiling. After a few tosses and turns, the stone was bounced to Yi Xian's feet at the entrance. A formation. So it's a formation. Yi Xian immediately reacted. However, when he saw that the stone was undamaged, he heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that this formation only allowed the person who entered to return to the entrance. It didn't have any offensive capabilities. TSK. How can a mere formation be a problem for me, Yi Xian? Yi Xian coldly snorted and quickly searched through the devouring space. Sure enough, he found a bloodline called Formation Breaking Master. Formation Breaking Master increased one's perception of formations. Formations were generally living formations, which meant that they could be broken. Very few people could create a death formation. If one encountered a death formation, then the only way was to forcefully destroy the formation. There was no other way. Yi Xian felt that the formation in front of him should be a living formation because the energy on the walls and floor seemed to be true essence that was stronger than true spirit. This spirit array should have been laid down by a true element boundary powerhouse, but none of the competitors had been able to forcibly break it, so this was definitely a living spirit array. Yi Xian spent 500 devouring points to fuse with the bloodline of the array breaking master. In the next moment, he found the array breaking point. Zhen Yuan. It flows according to a certain pattern, but there are some places where there is not a single bit of Zhen Yuan. As long as you step on those spots, you can get close to the treasure chest. At that moment, Yi Xian jumped to the nearest point. There was no quintessential Yuan flow at this point, so he was safe and sound. He carefully sensed his surroundings and found another foothold. He immediately jumped over. If the person who set up the formation was here, he would definitely be flabbergasted. This was because this was the formation that he had created after a year of exhaustion and neglect to eat and sleep. Moreover, it took a long period of modification to reduce these points to the limit and cover them up. Who would have thought that in less than 3 minutes, Yi Xian would be able to break it? At that moment, Yi Xian had already jumped to the corner of the small palace and opened the treasure chest there. Creak! The moment the treasure chest was opened, Yi Xian saw a vast expanse of purple crystals. All of them were crystals. However, the entire treasure chest was filled with circular substandard crystals. Damn, I've struck it rich! Yi Xian screamed. A chest full of crystals? How much wealth would that be? Even if they were substandard crystals, it would be a good deal. At this moment, Yi Xian directly chose to devour. Ding! The host has devoured 10,000 substandard crystals. The host has obtained 10,000 devouring points. Damn, 10,000 substandard crystals. That's 100 substandard crystals. That's enough to buy 10 Qian Kuan rings. Yi Xian was shocked. He realized that his true spirit had expanded by a large amount. He had already spent most of his points. Now that he had obtained 10,000 devouring points, he was so happy that he almost fainted. However, Yi Xian had spent about 40 to 50 substandard crystals to break through from peak LV10 to early stage true spirit realm. However, after breaking through to the true spirit realm, he needed more things. After devouring 100 substandard crystals, he felt that his experience points were less than half. He estimated that he would need another 2 or 3 chests. He guessed that the Emperor of the Dark Sun Empire was very confident in this array. That was why he had placed 10,000 substandard crystals here. The Emperor would never have expected that someone would be able to break through this array. Haha, this golden palace is really full of adventures. Yi Xian laughed. He wandered around the entire small palace, and then returned the way he came. After obtaining this reward, Yi Xian's speed also increased. He didn't want to be overtaken by the people who came later. After entering the fork, the number of such palaces increased. However, some of the smaller palaces were empty. They were used to confuse others. Half an hour after Yi Xian entered the Golden Palace, he finally encountered something that could move. Previously, The purple-robed commander had said that there would be some dangers in this golden palace. For example, captured enemy spies. However, this was just an example. At this moment, Yi Xian encountered a puppet that could move. This puppet was about 4 to 5 meters tall. Its 4 limbs were thick and its entire body was glowing with a silver light. It was unknown what material it was made of. When Yi Xian appeared in front of it, the puppet rushed towards him. Its rumbling footsteps echoed throughout the passage. So fast. It's comparable to the mid-stage of LV-10. Yi Xian was shocked. He immediately took out his golden eagle bow and shot a supernova arrow from 100 meters away. Boom! The arrow condensed from his true spirit struck the puppet's waist. In an instant, its body exploded into 2 halves. What surprised Yi Xian was that after the puppet was broken into 2 halves, its upper body could still move. Helpless, Yi Xian added another arrow and blasted its head. This puppet is not alive, but it can still move. It seems that there is a formation inside. Yi Xian quickly rushed over. After approaching, he indeed found some clues. There was spiritual energy flowing through the joints of these puppets. As long as he attacked these joints, he could easily defeat the puppet. However, Yi Xian was already in the true spirit realm, so he did not need to attack the puppet's weak points. I wonder if there will be a true spirit realm puppet. If there is, the others will be in trouble. Yi Xian thought for a moment and left. However, after a few steps, he turned back. He carefully examined the puppet, but did not find any points token. Damn it! It seems that points for the second stage of the Imperial Capital Tournament are hard to come by. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. However, in the next moment, he heard footsteps. He could not help but smile. Speak of the devil. The person who delivered the points was here. End of chapter. Chapter 139. 7 days had passed since the start of the second round of the Capital Tournament. In these 7 days, Yi Xian had been running around and had obtained many good things. However, other than the 10,000 substandard crystals he had obtained on the first day, he had not encountered anything similar. Most of the time, he had only obtained items worth tens of millions. From the second day to the 7th day, the items he had obtained were about the same as the first day. However, this was already very good. At this time, his true spirit was much stronger than before. If he worked a little harder, he would be able to break through to the early stage of the true spirit realm. In these 7 days, he had encountered many things. In this golden palace, other than the participants, there were enemy spies, puppets, and demonic beasts. The worst thing was that these dangers did not have a single point on them. They could only be found in the treasure chests occasionally. Therefore, the speed at which he gained points was very slow. However, Yi Xian had extraordinary speed. Along the way, he had encountered many people. Because of this, his points had soared from 1 million to more than 5 million. There was no ranking stone tablet in this golden palace, so he did not know what his ranking was. However, he should be in the top 10. He estimated that after the capital tournament ended, his points would reach 100 million. This way, he would have 1,000 substandard crystals. Now that he was already at the early stage of the true spirit realm, he would be able to break through to the mid-stage of the true spirit realm with a few more dozen substandard crystals. If he devoured all of these 1,000 substandard crystals, he would definitely be able to break through to the peak of the true spirit realm. Today was the 8th day of the second round of the capital tournament. This golden palace was very large, and there were too many forks in the road. However, Yi Xian had a rough map, so he did not get lost. I've already walked around half of the palace. If there's nothing on this side, then it must be on the other side. Yi Xian thought to himself. However, just as he was about to turn around and go back, he suddenly found a staircase at the end. What? There's a second floor in this golden palace? Yi Xian was shocked, but he did not hesitate and directly walked up. However, just as Yi Xian reached the second floor, he met someone he was very familiar with. This person was himself. How is this possible? Looking at the person in front of him who looked exactly like him, Yi Xian shuddered. He quickly looked around and realized that he was in a small palace. Other than Yi Xian in front of him, there was nothing else. Defeat me and you will find the exit. The fake Yi Xian standing in front of Yi Xian spoke slowly. Even the voice was exactly the same. The sword in his hand was the water splitter sword. However, Yi Xian now understood that he was in an illusory array. He had the bloodline of an array-breaking master, so he could sense that this fake Yi Xian was actually condensed from quintessential essence. As long as I defeat you, I can leave this place, right? Yi Xian said slowly. Yes. The fake Yi Xian nodded. All right. As Yi Xian spoke, he also gripped the water-splitting sword tightly. He thought to himself, so real. Even the weapon is the same. This means that my sword master bloodline has been replicated by him. The two stood 100 meters apart, facing each other. At this moment, the fake Yi Xian suddenly raised his hand and slashed. Yi Xian also slashed. The two slashes collided instantly, creating a strong impact. Even the power was the same. True and false, false and true. I want to see how capable this fake of yours is. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth slightly curled up as he fiercely charged out. The fake Yi Xian also had the same intention. He kicked his legs and charged forward. Myriad Flower Sword. Myriad Flower Sword. Both of them were at the third level of the Myriad Flower Sword. With a stab of their swords, their quintessential essence split into 72 slashes and blasted towards each other. Bam, bam, bam. Many of the slashes collided with each other and then exploded. Although some of the slashes made it through, the two of them directly used the lotus armor before fighting. Bam, bam, bam. The two of them instantly began to exchange blows. However, the lotus armor's defense was also extremely strong. It required 3 myriad flower swords to destroy it. In an instant, this battle between the real and the fake became a war of attrition. The two of them had the same appearance, the same weapon, the same realm, and even the same martial arts. Then, how was Yi Xian going to defeat this fake Yi Xian? The two of them exchanged blows for half a minute. Their quintessential essence was quickly depleted. However, at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly took out a pill. This was a pill that could quickly restore one's quintessential essence. What? The fake Yi Xian was shocked. He was Yi Xian's illusion. He had been formed when Yi Xian stepped into the second level. However, he didn't understand where the pill in Yi Xian's hand came from. Seeing the change in his opponent's expression, Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. He was really afraid that his opponent had replicated the devouring system. If that was the case, no matter what bloodline he exchanged for, his opponent would also have it. However, it seemed that he was overthinking. Although this illusion array was powerful, the devouring system was beyond the replicated range of this illusion array. The outcome of this battle was very clear. Yi Xian had a pill that could restore quintessential essence, but the fake Yi Xian didn't. Soon, the fake Yi Xian's quintessential essence was depleted. Although the 100-flower bloodline and green lotus sword arts could restore quintessential essence, this was a battle. How could the fake Yi Xian's recovery speed be faster than the real Yi Xian's? A few minutes later, the fake Yi Xian's quintessential essence was completely depleted. Then, Yi Xian's myriad flower swords turned him into a sieve. In the end, he vanished into thin air. It's my first time killing myself. It's quite interesting. Seeing the fake Yi Xian disappear, Yi Xian laughed self-deprecatingly. This illusion array didn't have much of an effect on him because he couldn't replicate the devouring system. However, he also understood that this illusion array required the user to break through in battle. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to win. There were many ways to break through. Breaking through realms, breaking through martial arts, and even battle techniques. Yi Xian was considered cheating. After Yi Xian defeated his fake self, the door at the end of the palace opened with a loud bang. Yi Xian quickly rushed over. I'm finally out. With my speed, I should be first place, right? Yi Xian couldn't help but stretch lazily. At the same time, he surveyed his surroundings. He discovered that he was on an empty platform. In front of him was a maze mirror. You're out so quickly? A voice with a slightly surprised tone entered Yi Xian's ears. Yi Xian. Chapter 140. Give me your identity medallion. Yu Shan extended his hand. Yi Xian took out his identity badge from the devouring space and handed it over to Yu Shan. 76,680,000. Yu Shan reported a number. It was Yi Xian's final score. This, master, what's my rank? Yi Xian asked in a weak voice. Don't worry, although Zhang Xian has broken through to the mid-true spirit realm, there aren't many ways to obtain points in the second stage. He only has 13 million points now, It's even less than yours. Yu Shan said. Although Yi Xian was very confident, he wasn't 100% sure that he could get first place. Jiang Xian hadn't come out yet, and he might be lucky enough to find tens of millions of points in one of the treasure chests. Although the possibility was small, it was still possible. You're sure to get first place. Although Jiang Xian's cultivation level is high, if he can't break through to the next stage, I'm afraid he'll be eliminated. Yu Shan looked at the closed door and said slowly. If he couldn't surpass himself in 1 month, he would be eliminated. At that time, he wouldn't be able to exchange his points anymore. But then again, Yi Xian's 76 million points could be exchanged for more than 700 low-grade crystals. I hope it'll end soon, then I can break through to the peak of the true spirit realm. Yi Xian was looking forward to it. When he arrived at South Forest City, he was only at the peak of the 9th rank of the Martial Path realm. But it wouldn't be long before he broke through to the peak of the true spirit realm, and it had only been 3 months. But when he thought about that abnormal father of his, he felt that he still wasn't strong enough. 8 years ago, when Yi Chong got first place in the Imperial Capital competition, he wasn't actually at the true spirit realm. He had already surpassed the Divine Core realm. He wrote that letter after the competition. At that time, he was only 28 years old. At 28 years old, he had already surpassed the Divine Core realm. As for Yu Shan in front of Yi Xian, he looked 40 years old, but he was only at the true spirit realm. This was the gap between them. Yi Xian had relied on the devouring system to grow to his current level. For Yi Chong to have such a talent, it was likely that he had encountered a fortuitous encounter that was comparable to the devouring system. Looking at the dazed Yi Xian, Yu Shan continued. All right, there are still 20 days before the tournament ends. I'll get someone to bring you back first. Just like that, Yi Xian returned to his previous residence. He didn't expect that he would be able to get first place in the competition. Although it wasn't confirmed yet, there was a 99.9% chance. However, the competition was not over yet, so he could only spend some time in his own house. On the 25th day of the second stage of the competition, Zhao Pan also successfully killed his way out. He had only managed to kill the fake Zhao Pan because he had broken through his cultivation base. Yi Xian was secretly impressed. This was because he had relied on the devouring system to achieve his current achievements. Without the devouring system, he would be nothing more than trash. Zhao Pan and the others were the true geniuses. 30 days later, the Imperial Capital tournament ended. According to the news brought by Zhao Pan, Yi Xian also knew that a total of 8 people had passed the second stage of the competition. That was 6 true spirit realm geniuses, including him and Zhao Pan. As for the others, they were all eliminated. Although there were only 8 of them, the total points of the 8 people was not a small number. After the tournament ended, Yi Xian received a notice that the emperor would personally confer a title to him in 3 days. In other words, he would become an official in 3 days. Although he didn't know what kind of official he would become, as the champion of the Imperial Capital tournament, his position would definitely not be small. 3 days passed very quickly. Under Yu Shan's lead, Yi Xian arrived at the most heavily guarded place in the Imperial Capital, the Profound Yang Palace. It was also the place where all the officials were gathered. When Yi Xian arrived, there were already over 100 officials standing there. Among them, there were 16 grand inspectors. On the dragon throne sat a middle-aged man wearing a dragon crown. Without a doubt, this middle-aged man was the emperor of the Profound Yang Empire, Zhao Chongguang. Beside him stood a fat man in an imperial robe. It was Zhao Pan. This scene was too unnatural. Yi Xian didn't dare to look at it. Your Majesty, the person is here. Yu Shan cupped his fists respectfully. In this world, it was not necessary to kneel when meeting an official. Bowing and cupping one's fists was enough. It was the same even when meeting the emperor. Yi Xian hurriedly cupped his fists. This was his first time meeting the emperor, so he couldn't help but feel excited. At the same time, he also noticed that there was a maze mirror at the side. Could it be that this scene was also reflected? This chapter does not end. Please turn the page. Outside? He was curious. What kind of official position would the emperor bestow upon him? As long as it wasn't the chief eunuch. At this moment, a eunuch beside Zhao Chongguang stood out. He opened a yellow scroll and shouted with a croaky voice, Yi Xian, Jiang Xian, Li Shao and Lu Yu. He read 7 names in a row. Except for Zhao Pan, everyone was present. When his name was read, Yi Xian stood to the side. Following that, he heard a series of praises for him. Something like a heavenly talent, a pillar of the nation. In any case, it was a bunch of good words that made him blush. When the eunuch read out the official position, all the civil and military officials were shocked. Yi Xian shall be bestowed the title of Great General of the Nation. By the Emperor. The voice echoed in the Xianyang Palace. At the same time, it also fell into Yi Xian's ears. Great General of the Nation sounds awesome. That Jiang Xian's father is the Great General of the Nation. My name is similar. They should be of the same rank. Yi Xian thought about it and was very satisfied. He hurriedly cupped his fists and thanked the emperor. However, when he heard the discussions of the civil and military officials, he was somewhat displeased. These officials thought that he was just a lucky brat. In terms of strength, Jiang Xian should be the strongest. They felt that this official position should be given to Jiang Xian. When he heard this, Yi Xian almost wanted to slap him across the face. His luck was indeed bad in the second round. He didn't even meet a single true spirit realm cultivator. He was also very helpless that he didn't meet Jiang Xian in the second round. Otherwise, he would definitely beat Jiang Xian up and then rob him of everything. However, these officials could only discuss in private. They didn't dare to voice their objections. One had to know that Yi Xian's official position was higher than most of the people present. The Great General of the Nation, the Great General of the Nation, the Grand Commander of the Imperial Guard, the Grand Chancellor, and so on were all the highest officials present. Most of these officials were of the second or third rank. If they saw Yi Xian in the future, they would have to salute him. Next up was the conferment of the Great General's son, Jiang Xian. Jiang Xian was conferred the position of Vice Commander of the Imperial Guard, a second-rank official. As for the others, they were all third-rank officials. Chapter 141. The items on the plate were all universe rings. This was the reward after the conferment, but no one knew how many things were inside. Yi Xian originally had a ring for disguise, but now, he finally had a universe ring. He immediately put it on and used his true spirit to check it. He found that there were many things inside. 800 low-grade crystal stones? The emperor is really rich. He actually gave me a round number. In addition to the low-grade crystal stones, there was a national guardian token, the address of a mansion, and a set of shining golden armor and a long spear spirit tool. What a pity, what a pity. If I met these 6 people in the second round, I would have robbed them all. That way, I would have gotten 2,000 low-grade crystal stones. Who knows, I might be able to break through to the true energy boundary. Yi Xian felt very regretful, but the competition was already over, so it was fine for him to feel regretful. After the conferment, the court was dismissed. The scene just now had been transmitted to the outside of the imperial city through the maze mirror. However, after the court was dismissed, Commander Yu called out to Yi Xian again. The emperor wanted to see him. Not only that, he wanted to see Jiang Xian and the other 5. It seemed like it was about the soaring firmament mansion's quota. Following that, Yi Xian and the other 6 people met the emperor in a small side hall under Commander Yu's lead. Previously, Zhao Pan had disguised himself as a commoner to participate in the competition, so Jiang Xian and the others didn't recognize him. But now, Jiang Xian and the others had more or less guessed who he was. Zhao Pan wasn't conferred a title, and he was standing beside the emperor wearing a golden embroidered robe. If he wasn't the crown prince, then what was he? They sighed in their hearts. Fortunately, they didn't meet Zhao Pan in the competition, otherwise, they would be in trouble. The profound Sun Emperor, Zhao Chongguang, was sitting at the head of the table. He glanced at the 7 of them and went straight to the point. I won't beat around the bush. Let me ask you all, have you heard of the Soaring Heaven Mansion? Soaring Firmament Mansion? Jiang Xian and the others weren't unfamiliar with this name. They weren't a country bumpkin like Yi Xian. They grew up in the imperial city, especially the son of the National Guardian General, Jiang Xian. He was quite familiar with the world's structure. At that moment, the 7 people, including Yi Xian, nodded slightly. All of them understood. Originally, the Soaring Sky Mansion only accepted disciples from the 4 great empires. However, they suddenly expanded their recruitment this year. All the empires are eligible. Of course, it's just qualifications. I just want to ask, who wants to give it a try? Zhao Chongguang asked. Jiang Xian and the other 5 were stunned. They quickly nodded and said in unison, "This humble subject is willing." "What about you?" Zhao Chongguang glanced at Yi Xian. "Your humble servant." "I'm also willing." Yi Xian imitated their tone and said, "All right." Zhao Chongguang nodded and continued. "However, there are only 3 spots for the 2 empires. We have to compete with the Raging Fire Empire. Therefore we have to choose 2 of you." 2. Jiang Xian and the other 5 were stunned. However, when they saw Zhao Pan standing beside Zhao Chongguang, they instantly understood. The first person had already been decided. It was Zhao Pan. "There's no better time than today. Let's start now," Zhao Chongguang said and waved his hand. Then, a maze void mirror appeared. Under his lead, everyone entered the maze void mirror. Yi Xian entered the maze void mirror for the 3rd time. However, this time, it was not the same place as before, nor was it the Golden Palace. Instead, it was a place similar to the Imperial City. It seemed that the members of the Mystic Sun Imperial family lived here. At this time, Yi Xian and the others were standing on a 200-meter wide stage. "There are only 2 spots, but there are 7 of you. How do you think we should compete?" Zhao Chongguang suddenly asked. Yi Xian and the others were stunned. The number of people was not equal, which was a little troublesome. However, there was one person among the 7 who had reached the mid-stage True Spirit Realm, Jiang Xian. Actually, this emperor already has a candidate in mind. "Jiang Xian, you're already at the mid-stage True Spirit Realm, so you can stand aside for now. The 6 of you are all at the early stage True Spirit Realm, so you'll fight in pairs to determine the top 3. Zhao Chongguang said. Although one's realm did not represent one's strength, Jiang Xian was already the strongest among the 6 when he was at the early stage True Spirit Realm. Now that he had broken through to the mid-stage True Spirit Realm, his strength could definitely suppress the other 5. "Yes." Jiang Xian cupped his fists and retreated to the side with an indifferent look. "The 6 of you will fight in pairs. I have 6 lots here." Zhao Chongguang suddenly took out a lot pot. However, at this time, someone stepped forward and cupped his fists. "Your Majesty, there's no need to go through so much trouble. Just one battle will do." The one who spoke was Yi Xian. "General Yi, you mean?" Zhao Chongguang was a little surprised. "It's very simple. Let the 5 of them come together, and this humble subject will face them alone," Yi Xian replied. However, before he could finish his sentence, someone shouted from the side. "What arrogance!" Li Xiaotian, the son of the great general of the north, walked out with a dissatisfied expression. The other 4 people did the same. They had no choice but to accept Jiang Xian's strength. However, Yi Xian was only at the early stage True Spirit Realm. How could they, as the top geniuses of the profound Sun Empire, accept such a challenge? In fact, Yi Xian also knew that Zhao Chongguang already had a candidate in mind. One was Zhao Pan, another was Jiang Xian, and the 3rd was definitely him. The scene here had probably been projected onto the maze mirror. In other words, many people were watching. Zhao Chongguang only did this to convince the others. Although Li Xiaotian and the other 4 were not convinced, Zhao Chongguang suddenly nodded. "I feel that General Ye's strength is not inferior to Jiang Xian's. Let's give it a try. If General Yi loses, he will be disqualified." "Yes." Yi Xian nodded. He really did not care about the 5 early-stage True Spirit Realm experts, even if it was Jiang Xian. When Li Xiaotian and the other 4 heard this, they felt a little helpless. After all, they could not disobey the imperial order. However, this was also good. They would have one less competitor. Immediately, they took out their weapons from their interspatial rings. Yi Xian also retreated to the side. "This kid has twice as many points as me. He should be quite capable," Jiang Xian thought to himself. "Let's begin." As Zhao Chongguang's voice fell, the 6 people in the arena moved. In an instant, the 5 True Spirit Realm geniuses used profound movement techniques and rushed toward Yi Xian. However, something strange happened. Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. "What? How is this possible?" Li Xiaotian and the other 4 were shocked. They did not notice how Yi Xian disappeared.